Okay, so is this going to be the debut, or was it? You didn't
Happy
have
half
this.
hours viewers saw
No,
version.
you didn't have this same shot though, did you? It looked different. You were off to the left.
I was off to the left because I have chat. No, I was in the center. I mean, I'm probably more centered now. It was a very frantic, like while John and Anna are eating ice cream, I'm gonna set up my shot.
I did check in. I was doing writing group, but I did check in. I saw the finals. I didn't get the final winner. It was ice cream, right?
It was ice cream.
It has to be.
Ice cream is the best sweet treat.
I mean, donuts are great and everything, but you can literally put donuts in ice cream.
Right. Ice cream is one of those things. It's like, guess what? So much like the variety aspect that donuts and pastries had.
Yes,
were fine, but
ice cream has
any ice cream is probably good. You won't always encounter a good pastry.
Oh yeah, no, you could have a bad pastry. I'll eat it, but
just be like, ooh, I was expecting. And then also like, you can look at ice cream and get a pretty good idea of what it is. A pastry is one of those like, no, it's like more of an addictive behavior where it doesn't always pay off. Sometimes you get a bad trip.
Have you gone to, what is it, Randy's? The donut place with the big donut that was in Arrested Development. That's near my house. Pretty good, pretty good. Well, Brett.
Yeah.
Or do you feel like you are now a fancier person because you are in a room filled with fine mahogany and leather-bound books?
Don't get too close. It's fantastic. This is the room I always want to be in. And the thing is, my grandmother had these things called Toby mugs, which are like mugs that look like Don Quixote.
Oh yeah,
like
I've seen your
more
Toby
viewers
mugs
and stuff. And I put them. The viewers
Toby jugs, aren't? Oh no, they're mugs and jugs.
They're called mugs. They're called Toby mugs. You know, they're in our family. Maybe it's just not. They weren't calling it the right thing. But anyways, I put them up on this shelf that was already here, and it's the exact same like style of shelf with a little like earthquake bar on it. Yeah, that my grandparents had these same mugs on.
Oh, that is cool.
And my mom was like, Grover in Virginia would be proud.
What do you refer to that room as? I'm going to my what?
Thought cave.
Thought cave. Is it your room, or do you both have a use for it?
The use we've had for it recently is to, at the end of the night, come into this room, put on like Planet Earth or something, and put on records, because I have my mom's records, and the old owners like gave us some stuff. They were like, just take this. So this couch in the background with the legs pop up, and the couches in the living room and stuff, but also the record player, this old timey, 80s record player.
You have records?
And so I thought I had them at my mom's house, but as I was moving, I was like, oh crap, these have just been sitting here in storage. So I've got my mom's and dad's records, which are like, my mom's are like,
that's a big week. Hey everybody, we're gonna close this thing out. Friday edition of the Damage Report with me, John Iadarola, and as always, once again, Brett Erlich, now broadcasting from a fancy cabin, I'm assuming.
When I got dressed this morning in the bedroom, I put on a t-shirt. When I walked over the threshold into this room, it turned into a flannel.
That makes sense. That's an upgrade you gotta have.
Yeah. So we've got a roaring fire, which we'll see if that becomes inappropriate eventually, as the campiness of it exists in the background of very serious conversations.
That's true. I think it's okay. I don't think it's that bad. Well, I'm worried that once the video finally ends and YouTube takes you to the next video, what rabbit hole we're gonna go down.
Don't worry, I got 10 hours of this, John. Okay. The 10-hour fireplace. Though if I were uploading a 20-minute fireplace video followed by like 8 hours of really raunchy stuff, I would label it 10 hours of roaring fireplace.
You would. I wish that was what it was. Well, anyway, I have not seen your home. I like this room though. I'm very envious. I feel like this is where I should have been writing this whole time. As much as I like my hut, that looks like a place where one would type on a typewriter and get a book done.
Thanks,
need
Tom
a cigar
Hanks.
and a fancy scotch. I'm sure he has it, Ted Cruz. Don't even worry about that. But anyway, Brett, I'm glad to have you here because we got a lot that we're gonna be talking about. Some of it is even good news. I swear to God. A lot of it though is not. So, it's still America, everybody. But anyway, if you wouldn't mind hitting the like button, sharing the stream, that would be great. And as we go through the next 90 minutes of content, if you would like to send us comments, tweets, super chats, all that, we'll respond as we go. And bear in mind, the show we're about to do is just the beginning of your Friday with TYT because you've got Indisputable coming up right after the Damage Report. Dr. Rashad Ritchie joined by Jackson White, who was on the Damage Report just yesterday. Jason Lefkowitz is gonna be on for debate as well. So you can go to youtube.com/indisputable_TYT or watch Twitch to see that. Galaxy Brain with Ben Crollo is coming up right after that. And then the power panel, I'm gonna be on with Cenk Uygur and Ravana. JR is gonna join Cenk and Adrian Lawrence for the second hour. And then Brett, I hear there's something new.
So I'm not sure what I'm more excited about. Is it that I'm excited about Game Busters itself or the theme song for Game Busters?
Oh, I don't know what the theme song is.
Produced by Adiana Vega. It might be the most epic experience of anyone's life. Like we might just have to loop it and dance for 2 hours or an hour and a half or however the hell long we go with this.
Well, I want to. Yeah. Sorry, I gotta hear this because our theme song has been mocked for years as just being My Sharona. Maybe we're gonna need to commission something from Mariana, but I have to listen to this and see what it is.
I think you might have to do that because there's a lot. It is not Whippin' Matisse Out Blue Lizard Guts. That's a different song by Adiana. Whippin' Matisse Out on video chat. No, that's not that.
I've not heard that song.
Oh, it's so good. It is a banger. But this one is just so good. There's like I want to say Oingo Boingo style, like synth horn hits for those connoisseurs of 80s, like whatever kind of music that was. A lot of Dead Man's Party vibes. And I don't know what else to say about it other than there's a David Lee Roth inspired trill that I sing and a lot of
singing during it. Okay.
You could call it singing unless you knew what singing was supposed to sound like.
That's true. Okay, so I have a follow-up question about Game Busters because we have continued the tradition where everybody in the audience finds out about new shows exactly at the same time or before I ever do. So I had no idea this was coming. You're co-hosting it with Jordan Ewell.
So Jordan's gonna be running the stream. And for those of you who participated, and Sean, you participated in this too, the fundraiser that he did, where there's a lot of people are playing games, you can participate. You can also like subscribe and give bits to sabotage the games that we're gonna be playing. We're gonna try to play a different game every week. So John, we would definitely love for you to be part of it. It'll involve games that you probably have played or maybe dabbled in or been curious about that have been kind of making the rounds on the Twitcher sphere. Cool. And it's one of those things where if you are a gamer and you're interested in the latest games, like we'll be trying to play those. But if you're not, you can just hang out, watch, chat, and have a good time. So
that sounds like fun.
It's a lot of fun, and Jordan's really great about getting fantastic guests. So he's going to be reaching out to some new faces and definitely hanging out with folks like you're accustomed to on Friday nights.
Awesome, sounds like fun. And of course, adieu to Common Room.
Anything can come back.
It'll be back. I mean, it's come back multiple times. I'm sure it'll come back at some point. But anyway, Brooke says that we'd love to invite you so you can say no. Well, we'll see. I've been on before, but anyway, we do have a lot of news to get to. So a lot's coming, and Sophie's about to quit, so we better move into the news soon. Let's do it. In the aftermath of the historic flooding in the Northeast, we now find out that at least 46 individuals have died in the flooding, far more than we knew about yesterday when we talked about it on the show. And we're reading now this morning that Joe Manchin is very concerned that you might be influenced by all these climate disasters to take climate change seriously, and he's not going to have it. So he has posted an op-ed with the Wall Street Journal saying he's ready for a pause now on all this infrastructure stuff, saying a pause is warranted because it will provide more clarity on the trajectory of the pandemic, and it will allow us to determine whether inflation is transitory or not. While some have suggested this reconciliation legislation must be passed now, I believe that making budgetary decisions under artificial political deadlines never leads to good policy or sound decisions. I've always said if I can't explain it, I can't vote for it, and I can't explain why my Democratic colleagues are rushing to spend $3.5 trillion. Well, he can't and doesn't explain any individual problem he has with the reconciliation bill, any of the spending other than the overall number, which we'll return to. Now, one would think he'd be able to explain that since the details have been available for months and months and months, and he's a goddamn senator with a crew that could ask questions of the people putting this together. Apparently, he's chosen not to do that. He's busy writing op-eds. He goes on to say, I, for one, won't support a $3.5 trillion bill or anywhere near that level of additional spending without greater clarity about why Congress chooses to ignore the serious effects inflation and debt have on existing government programs. Now, look, at the very least, he's been consistent on one thing. $3.5 trillion is way too much. From the very beginning, he's been calling, for instance, for up to $4 trillion in infrastructure spending. So that's weird. Nobody seems to remember that that's what he was. It would have played if we brought up the graphic. But anyway, so he's been calling for $4 trillion. When Biden initially said how much he wanted, Manchin tried to claim, no, actually he wants nothing. I'm the one who has this big goals and everything. He got a good bit of press out of that. And then ever since then, he's been running from it. And now I guess because we spent a couple of weeks not talking about Joe Manchin, Brett, all of a sudden he's got to try to throw a spanner into the works, and maybe we'll get an infrastructure bill again, and maybe we won't. Maybe he just wants us to interview him. Maybe he wants to add something to the bill. God only knows, but he's the president, so he gets whatever he wants.
Yeah, Joe Manchin is so infuriating because for these reasons, some which you mentioned, he has every opportunity to find out exactly what his colleagues are talking about, and his colleagues have been talking about it for a very long time. Rushing is not what's happening here. There is no rushing. And if he calls it an arbitrary political deadline, it's like, what are you talking about? There's an election coming up. And in the election's always coming up. When you look back on the Affordable Care Act, there was a very tiny window, and everyone criticizes how long it took them to get that done. Because things won't happen unless there's a deadline. And his artificial political deadline is until then. His artificial political number is now 3.5 trillion, as it was reported by whoever this is. It looks like insider. Senator Joe Manchin calls for up to $4 trillion in infrastructure spending. That's what he did. $4 trillion. He said it before. Is he lumping that in with the the 1.8 or whatever it was trillion spending package that was the bipartisan one?
Well, but that's even smaller now. I mean, it's not that much.
It's
more
$538 million in additional spending. I think it was that. So
it's almost exactly $4 trillion.
So if he goes in there, the thing with Joe Manchin, at the end of the day, he does this kind of thing to do some kind of personal branding back in West Virginia, and then frequently votes along with what people want him to vote on. And so if he does this, stomps and screams, but in his specific fake folksy West Virginia way, which is I might be about to pass out as he does this, which makes it even more infuriating. And then he just shaves $35 million off of this, or $1 billion off of this, and we go home. Everybody signs off on it, and his final number is $4 trillion. Fine, Joe Manchin. But what are you doing in the meantime? If you can't explain it, find a way to explain it. That's the other Joe Manchin thing is he knows that line works back home. If I can't explain it, I won't vote for it. That's the destination. It's not doing stuff that helps West Virginians. It's maintaining his own personal brand so he can keep getting elected. And then maybe when this is all said and done, and people have gotten infuriated with him rightly to the point where he's like, I'm not going to do this anymore. He stops being a senator and he goes to be a governor.
Yeah, maybe. Look, maybe we never know. You're 100% right. Sometimes he does end up doing what we would want him to do, and sometimes he doesn't. And the financial stakes and the climate stakes and the infrastructure stakes are so high that I don't want to just gamble. It would be cool if there was some pushback. I mean, there is some. We're gonna give you from progressives. I haven't heard anything from Biden yet. Maybe they're talking behind closed doors. That's one strategy. The former president tended to be a bit more public about it. Feel like the fact that Manchin is apparently saying, "Oh yeah, Biden, all your plans that you've been talking about, no, I'm single-handedly going to stop those." Feels like the president could respond to that in a public way. Because right now, like maybe he does it behind closed doors and maybe it even works. But there's no public cost to being willing to say, I'm going to tank my entire party's agenda. There's no cost to that. He just does it. He gets coverage. Basically, nobody that the powerful care about is going to criticize him. It's frustrating. So look, sorry, what were you going to say?
I forget, yeah. AOC has the best take on this, and I see that you have it. So
yes, okay. So why don't we go into that? Well, first of all, the communications director for Sunrise Movement, Ellen Scala, says she responded with just abolish the Senate. That was the entirety of her thing. Yeah. Look, fundamentally change the Senate. The country is not split 50-50. So why is the Senate 50-50, leaving a goon like him to be able to determine if anything happens or not, based on whether he feels like it or not?
I'd say reestablish the Senate. Reborn, like whatever it is. What are they called? Born again Senate. Let's do a born again Senate.
Yeah.
Where we go back to the original way the Senate was set up, where you don't have a filibuster. Like you don't
still have popular election of senators.
And you'd still have popular election of Senate. No, you couldn't have that. It would still be the state legislature. So 1917. 1817 hybrid. Let's do that.
Yeah.
1917, 1817 hybrid of those two.
Yeah. Okay, so I want to give you the response of some others, including Jamal Bowman, who said, "Hey Joe, these are the homes in my district after last night's storm. How much destruction do we need to see before it's worth investing in our climate?" I don't know. Look, my dumb, naive, knee-jerk reaction is, well, he's not seeing it in West Virginia, but then I realized I don't think he'd care. They blow the tops off mountains in West Virginia. I don't think he cares about environmental devastation even close to home. And why am I referring to West Virginia as his home as if he ever goes there? As if he gives a damn about anything that happens in that state. But anyway, Jamal Bowman is right. A lot of people just lost their lives. By the way, AOC pointed out on Twitter that the subway stations and other infrastructure that was rebuilt post Hurricane Sandy, that was designed to be more resilient to flooding like this, a cause exacerbated by climate change, didn't fail in the same way. It was the older, non-upgraded infrastructure that was more likely to fail. Again, pointing out not only that we need to deal with climate change, but infrastructure is an integral part of it.
Yeah, there's this, she's explaining it to him. He wants the answers. Thanks for the question. Let's explain it to him.
Yeah.
So there just needs to be a quick explainer of what's going on. And the explainer will be the text of this budget. And he's gonna say, I can't read it, it's so long. Well, then someone give him a bullet by bullet explanation of what's in it. And those are the exact things. And also, these kinds of investments in energy will still power West Virginia workers. Yeah. And these kinds of infrastructure investments are the things that get to exactly keeping those people in employment.
Yeah.
It'll fund systems that put them to work.
Yeah.
It worked before, it will work again.
Let's give a little bit more from AOC. Maybe that'll put me in a better mood. She says, and by the way, and I try to point out when she does specifically call out, and she loves calling out Joe Manchin in particular, says Manchin has weekly huddles with Exxon and is one of many senators who gives lobbyists their pen to write so-called bipartisan fossil fuel bills. It's killing people, our people, at least 12 last night. Sick of this bipartisan corruption that masquerades as clear-eyed moderation. And she points out that they can hit the cancel button on this so-called bipartisan charade of an Exxon lobbyist drafted infrastructure bill unless we actually pass a law that helps people's lives with healthcare expansion, childcare, climate action, etc. Pointing out that this does go both ways. They can kill, the progressives can kill both bills too. Although I will point out again, as I have from the very beginning, it is not exactly equal because one side cares way, way more if anything ever happens. Joe Manchin's not gonna cry himself to sleep in his mansion if they don't get the bipartisan bill in addition to the reconciliation one. So again, it's asymmetric warfare. Now anyway, I wanna move on to another issue here. And that is that, look, we luckily have people like AOC who are doing Instagram lives, telling people about the intersection of climate change, infrastructure, these sorts of policies, our obligation to do something. The right has their own version. Let's jump into this. Greg Gutfeld, like sitting in a studio right where all the flooding is happening, isn't exactly buying this climate change thing. Let's watch this video.
Whenever you actually kind of push at the climate change, the claims they make, ask for data, it's never there. So they always say it's an increase in weather events without ever saying the severity of it, which goes to your point about deaths, right? So the severity has been on the decline, and we've been starting to keeping track of this. Maybe it's been over a half a century, not quite, but the amount of death has been a decline.
Okay, so yeah, there's no data. It's 2021. Like I stupidly, again, naively thought that we'd kind of move past this, that we were just in the, well, okay, sure, it's happening, and okay, I guess I admit we caused it, but I don't want to do anything about it. It's so expensive, it's so difficult. No, sometimes they just play the hits. We still don't even know if it's happening. Record-breaking flooding constantly. Everything's on fire that's not flooded. Soon, both. They're fire tornadoes after all. Why not fire typhoons? But yeah, there's no data. There's just nothing. I mean, ironically, 2 days ago, a UN agency, or actually the reporting from it is coming out. Yeah, 2 days ago, a UN agency said they put out this report saying the number of disasters such as floods and heat waves driven by climate change have increased fivefold over the past half century, killing more than 2 million people and costing $3.64 trillion in total losses. The costs from those events have surged from $175 billion in the 1970s to $1.38 trillion in the 2010s when storms like Harvey, Maria, and Irma ripped through the United States. But why should he have any idea of what had just recently been reported before he goes off on his stupid rants? Now look, in some cases, there have been fewer deaths, partially because we are taking these more seriously. And thankfully, there have been regulations that have made buildings, for instance, better able to weather storms, hurricane proofed, and all of that. Although again, as always, I will point out that he's hiding behind these sorts of regulations to say we don't need to do anything when he's the sort of pundit that never would have supported those regulations in the first place. And so there's a double layer of irony. And I will just point out, he then goes off on this thing about how we need to all study the work of Bjorn Lomborg, who's not respected enough. He's a climate skeptic. First of all, he's not even really a climate skeptic. He says it's happening. He just, like Greg Gutfeld, says there's no point in trying to do anything about it. But notably, his most important work, which is about 20 years ago, was investigated by the DCSD. They did a ruling back in January of 2003 finding that the claims that he had misrepresented the science were totally true. He had totally misrepresented the science in his big work, but he can't really be held responsible because he has no expertise in any of this material anyway, so how could we expect him to know what he was talking about? That's the expert that Greg Gutfeld went on to cite. Although what I just said is probably more actual information he has than he has about this guy and his actual work. Anyway, Brett, I apologize. The entire thing is very frustrating. All this evidence is being shoved in our face, wet in the one hand, fire in the other, and no, we're not gonna learn anything.
That sounded so gross.
Noted.
Yeah, Greg Gutfeld is, believe it or not the foremost expert on climate science. He is and he's there doing an impression of what he's a comedian, right? So he's going to adapt to whatever the audience is reacting positively to. That's what you do. You have this instinct about what you think is good. You go tell the jokes. You do more of what people laugh at and less of what people don't laugh at. And in this situation, it's that particular kind of Fox laughter that is the reason that they like Gutfeld in the first place. He looks like he looks like the cartoon guy in Pinocchio that turns into a donkey.
I knew that's who you were gonna say.
And when you're picking people to be on shows in this Trump world of central casting, that's why you gravitate toward Gutfeld. He looks like that little kid. He looks like someone's little brother who got beat up and then grew up and just like started buying suits. And now he's a little cartoon brat in a suit who just says whatever. He's the jester that they bring in at Fox News to tell the jokes so that everybody can throw tomatoes at something.
Yeah.
So he's not the place to go to, and he's killing it, by the way. He's getting great ratings over there because they're really leaning into what Fox represents itself as, not in the commercials, not in the advertisements or the promotion or day-to-day experience a viewer would have while watching Fox News. Yeah. They're leaning into what Fox does when they get sued for misinformation, for being derelict in their duty as a news network, which is, this is all just entertainment. They got a freaking late night show on a news network where people come in and they tell stupid jokes, and most of them are failed pundits and failed comedians who show up there just because they're getting this awesome opportunity to, after they get no laughs anywhere where people are reacting in a club, they go there and they get the kind of positive reinforcement and acceptance as legit that you get by just being on a set with that expensive a lighting setup.
Sure. Yeah, I can't believe it. Remember when that show came out? We showed some clips from it. It is god awful.
All those shows always get better though.
Yeah, I'm
you don't want them to, but they do. They get better because they figure it out. They figure out what's working and what's not. Yeah.
Let's live review an episode of Gutfeld, because here's the thing: his show might be new. He's not. He's been on there for years and years and years. He's terrible. I think Kilmeade's funnier, honestly, on a regular basis. Maybe not.
I think he's funnier. I mean, he's funny. He's got, there's funny people and there's not funny people. Like, he knows how to be funny, but the thing is, like, that smirk is 50%, I believe in this, and 90%, and yes, that's more than 100%, just because he's so extra. It's 90%. I can't believe I figured out this gig.
Yeah, well,
because I've talked to comedians who hung out with that guy and said, like, yeah, he talks crap about Trump. And yeah, he likes to, he says Trump's fun to hang out with, but he thinks he's an idiot.
Yeah.
And then he turns around and is like, yeah, I know what I gotta say to get paid.
Got it. We gotta take our first break. When we come back though, we will be talking about COVID. There's a new variant going around. We're gonna get an idea of how worried you should be. And Tucker Carlson stands up for those breaking the law for no reason whatsoever. After this. Okay, everybody. And by the way, Brett, it's Lampwick. He's the kid that turned into the donkey. Don't erase Lampwick.
I just didn't think we could say that on this show.
Anyway, Billy Bear the Bear Dragon says, watching you and Anna eat ice cream with the comfy music playing while I was stoned out of my mind was the best ASMR video ever. And tell Brett he's cute.
I am cute, that's true.
No, I won't.
When you guys took bites, had to take my headphones out because that is like my trigger.
In the
mouth sounds eating
or
like
a bad way.
I dated a girl who chewed with her mouth open, and that's why we broke up.
Yeah. Jesus, you are basically Jerry Seinfeld.
There's that. Okay. There's that. If it doesn't get all over the place, it doesn't belong in your face. Hardee's commercial. Remember where, like, I don't know. I said Hardee's for you because you're from the East Coast, but Carl's Jr. where they eat it and it's like, and they're chewing. That Aaliyah song where it's like that, and it's people
for me, it's the baby noise. I don't like that, but they can be related. Beating. Yeah, I don't see it, but I don't like it. Okay, anyway, Daniel Velasquez says it's very hard to get bad pizza. All pizza are good enough. I think that's going to one of your brackets, I suppose. Naomi said, Sophie, ask for a raise. Scissors says, you can say what you will about Trump, but he would have destroyed Manchin with a single tweet. Yeah, and maybe it wouldn't have worked. I don't know. I feel like Biden could switch things up a little bit. I don't know. Try something new. Rajano Gray says, I wonder if Joe Manchin just wants more pork for West Virginia. I remember this is what his predecessor, Robert Byrd always wanted. Yeah, maybe. Stay tuned. We'll find out. Non-Human Humanist says, money is just a social agreement, how we value one's contribution to society. It is just a contract, not a physical law. Climate change is ongoing. I don't think I disagree with any of that, thank you. Okay, Izzy says, it feels like the breaks are just John and Brett trying to annoy each other the most. No, you've got it switched up actually, that's the show.
That's it.
In the breaks, we respond to comments. Moondragon says, I keep imagining Biden saying whatever Congress does is cool while puffing on a spliff. Yeah. And playing cribbage. David Pearson says, run political ads in West Virginia explicitly saying that Joe Manchin wants to kill Americans instead of rebuilding infrastructure. No compromise and never back down. Well, look, there are groups down there right now that are trying to put pressure on him. It's just, again, the major issue is that there is a greater, I feel like this is not based on a statistical analysis or anything. I feel like everything is better insulated from consequences and pressure than it's ever been before. I feel like that's obviously true of media. I feel like that's true of a lot of politicians too. Whether it's building media bubbles and being able to sort of, choose your audience effectively, or if it's gerrymandering, if it's like the great accumulation of money that makes being primaried so difficult, like the levers that can potentially get someone to reconsider a path they're on, they feel incredibly fragile these days. Anyway, MSM says, I can't stand these climate deniers. I'm from NJ originally, and I've never seen record flooding, 7 tornadoes, and a size 3 earthquake in the span of a week. How many plagues do we need before they realize we're in the end times? Maybe when the boils hit. I don't know. I did just watch The Mummy though. It looks rough. I'm not looking forward to it. Okay, unfortunately, we have a few more messages. We will get to all that. Thank you to those who are gifting Twitch subs. But we do have a lot more news, so we're gonna return to that right now. Okay, Brett, it's time to go back to annoying each other. Not that I need to remind you.
Challenge accepted.
Okay, let's do this.
Whenever you're ready, just go ahead and start the story.
See, I liked the old pattern where the intros were relatively smooth, but it was impossible to go to break. Now we've got a book coming and going. Anyway, this is serious. Most people are just now getting used to the Delta variant, which has swept across America, but you might have been hearing of the Mu variant. Well, what is that? We're gonna give you the details. But at least as of right now, the experts seem to be indicating it isn't something you need to be immediately really worried about. Here is Dr. Fauci.
We certainly are aware of the Mu variant. We're keeping a very close eye on it. It is really seen here, but it is not at all even close to being dominant. As you know, the Delta is more than 99% dominant. Even though it is not in the essence taken hold to any extent here, we always pay attention to at all times variants. This variant has a constellation of mutations that suggest that it would evade certain antibodies, not only monoclonal antibodies, but vaccine and convalescent serum-induced antibodies. But there isn't a lot of clinical data to suggest that. It is mostly laboratory in vitro data. Not to downplay it, we take it very seriously. But remember, even when you have variants that do diminish somewhat the efficacy of the vaccines still are quite effective against variants of that type. Bottom line, we're paying attention to it. We take everything like that seriously, but we don't consider it an immediate threat right now.
Okay, so I'm gonna give you more information about the origin and spread of the Mu variant, but Brett, there was some mixed information there. Of course, look, he's saying there is reason to believe that it might be able to evade some of the antibodies, but so far we don't have a lot of like in the field evidence of that, and you might still be kind of protected, and it isn't very common. So what do you think?
I think the big takeaway that a lot of people would probably have when watching or reading a story like this is, oh my God, we're at Mu. It's like when you look up what letter we're on in the hurricane alphabet, and you're just like, oh, Mu looks like an M. It's in the middle somewhere. I don't even know. They probably have even more Greek letters than American letters. So I'm out. But really, at the end of it, it's like I'm scared of the Mu, and everyone has already by this point chosen, for the most part, their approach to guidance from the CDC and how much they take it to heart. And for me, someone who has taken it to heart and is, just like any other developing science, as new things emerge, you kind of feel that over time it gets more and more concrete, and that seems to be the same vibe that the guy in charge of science here does. But I'm still going to follow the same COVID protocols that I've been following, which are probably a little bit more, stringent than other people have. And I know that's just because a luxury of being able to work remotely and everything like that. But I'm still going to be as careful when I go into a grocery store. I'm still going to give really horrible looks to the woman in El Pollo Loco who wasn't wearing a mask, even though we have a mask mandate and it's in front of her face. Because she's trying to be cute, but that's
I get what you're saying.
That's where I'm at.
Yeah, I think that largely you're right. I think that most people's response is pretty baked in at this point. But let's acknowledge, as we have been, that vaccination rates have been rising as a result of Delta, at least the effect of Delta, if not the news coverage and more information we've gotten of the Delta variant. So some people do seem to be able to be influenced, even if belatedly and far too few. But let me catch up on Mu so far. It was designated by the WHO as a variant of interest earlier this week and was going to be monitored by the global health body as cases continue to emerge. It is the 5th variant that the WHO is monitoring. The CDC has not yet elevated it to that level. Probably because so far a lot of it is international. We will see if, as it spreads in the United States more, if it might get elevated. The variant was first detected back in January of this year in Colombia, where cases continue to rise. Since then, it's been found in more than 39 countries. Why not just say how many? If you're gonna be that specific, is it 40? Is it 41? I don't know why they do that.
There's
but anyway,
only 39 countries.
That's true. Yeah, I think there are roughly 39 countries in the world.
More than John. I was gonna just gloss over that until you point out. Now it's the most frustrating thing in the universe to me.
Is it more than 40 or isn't it? Because that at least seems like you're rounding.
Is there like which Sudan are they like separating them now, or like is it like
do they mean like 39 countries and a city state?
Are you think is it Vatican? Like the Vatican? Like is North Korea fine?
Disputed regions, unmapped territories? Is this a fractional country?
Fauci, oh my God.
What do you
I'm
think?
Not gonna be able to sleep tonight, John, not because of the Mu variant, but because of more than 39 countries. I'm gonna call
someone like Nepal. Yeah, maybe.
Calling up Adela Suleiman and asking for the Washington Post.
Anyway,
explain.
Jesus, as of Sunday, the global prevalence of the Mu variant appears to be less than 0.1%. But in South America, it has consistently increased, now making up 39% of the cases in Colombia and 13% of the cases in Ecuador. About 2,000 Mu cases have been found in the US in states, as broad as California, Florida, Texas, and New York, where you would expect basically any new variant is going to enter the country. Pfizer has said that they are studying the Mu variant and expected to share data soon with a peer-reviewed journal. They say as of right now, they are very confident about the vaccine's ability to fight it off, but they do also sell that vaccine. So not exactly unbiased, but anyway, as of right now, that's the information we have. Perhaps in a few months, it'll be ruining our lives, but right now it doesn't look like a total catastrophe. Yep. Any final thoughts?
Nope. Let's move on, John. I don't got all day, damn it.
Well, it's not the break though, so it doesn't count. But anyway, why don't we jump into this? Oh, sorry, just the video. My bad.
Buying a fake vaccination card is not a quote serious crime. It's not even close to a serious crime. Buying a fake vaccination card is an act of desperation by decent, law-abiding Americans who have been forced into a corner by tyrants. You know what's a serious crime? Forcing Americans to take drugs they don't need or want. That's a very serious crime. And let's hope in the end, someone is punished for it severely.
Okay, so I don't know what the severe, I don't know, like jail for the rest of their lives. Is he trying to hint at the death penalty? I mean, look, maybe not, but he knows his audience. What like if he was to do a poll, should Dr. Fauci be executed over what he's done during the pandemic? What do you think the responses would be? But anyway, there he is talking about the people who are pretending to be vaccinated when they are not, so that they can enter types of buildings, businesses, perhaps even states. For instance, we talked earlier this week about a woman who faked her Moderna vaccine so that she could go into Hawaii, a state that is desperately trying to stop the importation of COVID. But they are law abiding even as they break the law. That's the trick that he plays. Whereas people who are trying to stop the spread of a deadly disease, they are the ones that are actually transgressing. And in fact, so badly that there are tyrants who want people to take a free vaccine. Again, Brett, like it's a shot that takes like 10 seconds. That's what it is, and it's free. And the side effects are very, like I cannot believe that still we're like spending all of our time trying to get through when, and he's got, a billion times the reach, millions of people accept every single word that he says. And yeah, so these people who are just selling, they're selling these for $250 a pop so they can make money. That's the entire reason they're doing it. He takes that criminal behavior and turns it into some sort of patriotic stand.
This is the absolute most embarrassingly terrible argument that Tucker Carlson has ever made. His argument is you don't gotta follow laws you don't like. Fine. Is that a world you want to live? I thought you were rule of law, but apparently we're not. So I'm not going to follow any of the laws I don't like. And then also, he is not, so then the other thing that is people would be used, this is fraud. You would buy a fake vaccine card to commit fraud. Now, what is the intent by having vaccine cards? The intent of having vaccine cards is to make sure that people aren't killing other people through some kind of bioweapon known as COVID-19, right? So there is a virus that these people with fake vaccine cards, they bought knowingly, are then smuggling viruses potentially. The whole mechanism is for them to smuggle viruses into places where other people are to spread that virus. That's why they did it. So that murder is less serious to him than making sure people don't murder.
Yep. Because that's what his audience wants to hear.
Doesn't make any sense. Which is it, man? He picks any side of any story because 600,000 Americans have died. 500. I don't even know what the number is now. Over 500,000 Americans have died from this. We're trying to fix it. It is a foreign invader. Let's call it that, so your stupid audience will get behind it. This foreign invader is infiltrating our society, and we are trying to stop this immigrant virus from killing more people. And if our new Texas law means that we can sue for damages anyone who facilitates something we don't agree with that is enshrined in law now, well, anyone who is passing the virus around knowingly through fraud, I should be able to sue them for a whole grip of money.
Yeah, it's just, ugh. Yeah, well, we should set up a bounty. If you believe that someone is faking their vaccination card, you can get $10,000. Yeah, we're back up to an average of over 1,500 people dying every day. I'm not an expert. We can ask Brooke, what is that, like 5 to 10 planes crashing every single day full of Americans needlessly dying? And he is worried that people have to get a vaccine. And again, he isn't. Like, it would be one thing if we were fighting, like if I wish we could go back to like arguing against Alex Jones, because at least he believed what he was saying. It was crazy, but he believed it. Tucker Carlson doesn't give a damn about any of this. He's vaccinated and he doesn't care. He doesn't actually consider it to be tyranny. He just knows what his audience believes and wants to hear.
He's an elitist speech and debate stooge doing this as an extracurricular. If you don't know what speech and debate is, I didn't either until I saw a documentary on it, where it's a bunch of morons who go out, or it's a bunch of elitist, pleated pant, Oxford shirt wearing D-bags who try to get into college by having this extracurricular where you just, I think what you do is you just kind of pick any position and argue for it. You're supposed to be able to take both sides, and he does that throughout. So here's it, like, his argument is against having religious cake companies refuse to make gay cakes. Like,
that's the reason you can refuse to let someone in, but not this. Yeah, and again, like,
so stupid.
Pointing out the hypocrisy doesn't matter because they don't care. They don't not want to be hypocritical. They want to get what they want. That's it. There's no consistency because consistency is drawn from something deeper, and there's nothing deeper than wanting to have their way. Whatever their way is, however it comes to their head, maybe Tucker gives it to them. Maybe it's based on something that happened to them as kids. They don't know, they just want it. And that's it. That's as deep as it goes. So we feel all of these stupid, pointless needs to point out inaccuracies and hypocrisies, and we're gonna continue doing it. We got a little bit more Tucker Carlson coming up later with just obvious lies. But again, they don't care because they don't care about being consistent. They don't care about being accurate. They don't care if what they say actually reflects reality. They fundamentally don't care. And they certainly don't care if they get other people sick and those people die. Now, let's take our second break. And when we come back, a little bit of old school political corruption. How can you take donor money and turn it into your money after this? It's a Friday, Brett. It's a Friday before a 3-day weekend.
Yes, and awesome. Football's back. College football's back.
Sure. Oh, God, you almost had me, and then you added the qualifier. Anyway,
John, it's gonna be so.
I was gonna ask if I could come over to watch it, but I don't know about football. Anyway, or college. Lazy Peon says, sorry I'm late, but had a good excuse though. Making a magnetic board game table for my brother. Hold it. Did Brett get jelly of Ben's new set and need an upgrade? Wait, who has a new set?
Carollo.
Oh, he has a new set?
I don't know. I've been listening. I've been like unpacking and listening to everything, so I haven't been actually watching. Sorry.
Okay, we're gonna have to.
Sorry, I didn't see people say. But John, I don't know. Do you see what's here? What's here and here? This is Splendor. This is Splendor. This is Ticket to Ride. This is Hasanabi, and this is Trivial Pursuit. But you can't see. And then also,
you mean Hanabi?
Yeah, I know.
Hasanabi's a different thing.
Although that's Hasanabi.
Yeah. Okay.
Hasanabi. So these are the two monks that got sent to us, but because they packed up stuff for me to take from the studio, your mug of the monk is here, so it's safe.
Nice.
Yeah. So
I love, by the way, that I can, even with your shallow depth of field, the smear of color. I looked at that. I was like, that's Ticket to Ride. I know
Ticket to Ride. Yeah, it barely fits on the shelf because it's such a monster. The Sherlock Holmes escape room thing has to go on the bottom.
Oh, nice. The Only Allegra says, I lost a close family friend to COVID last night here in Florida. This is like watching a massive train wreck in slow motion. The Republicans are ruining everything. Yeah, 1,500 people a day. Again. How many times do we need to go through this? And it's pointless to even point it out. It doesn't matter how horrifying the prospect of 1,500 people dying was before it was happening or as it was happening at first. Virtually no one is actually horrified by that anymore. Nobody actually values those lives as much as they did just a year ago. Anyway, Kelly June cheered 200 bits. Thank you for that. Obi Jacoby cheered 11 bits. Thank you. Terry Berry subscribed for 15 months. Much appreciated. Bookworm Dragon hit 15 months as well. But you know what? Gina J, the introvert, hit 16 months.
Cheesy.
Says love the show and the network. Introvert Dragon here. Thank you. 16 that's right up there. Isn't Brooke 16, I think?
Probably.
Yeah, something like that. Okay, they call me Cookie hit 11 months. Says if the show was actually just John and Brett annoying each other, I think I would still watch it. Well, you are, so thank you. Anyway, Andrew Singh says I love the fire. LOL lumber vibe. Brett definitely has lumber vibes these days. Anyway, Kathleen gifted 5 tier 1 subs, much appreciated. Haiku Dragon says a haiku for you. Combine climate change with failing infrastructure yields deadly future. I like it. Maybe that is enough to explain to Manchin what he needs to do. We'll have to send that to him. Micro Kimmy hit 4 months on Twitch. Thank you. Two Paper Dolls Gaming hit 2 months. Thank you very much. And Brooke says, don't make me do math. That was on the planes thing. Yeah. Matthias says, hey trucker, what would Fox do if they lied to get in? Don't you guys keep records and make people wear masks? Again, you are pointing out very true and accurate hypocrisy, and he doesn't care. Okay, more news. Let's do it. No Fridays. Okay, let's jump into something completely different. How have the business interests of Donald Trump been holding up? Sort of the core thing that he does is rent out and sell apartments basically in Trump Tower. They don't do as much of the licensing of his name anymore. They certainly don't build anything, but they do sell and rent real estate. Well, apparently not doing too well, although they have found a bit of a way to make some money. And wait until you find out whose money it is that they're actually making. So starting in March, one of Trump's committees, Make America Great Again PAC, paid $37,541 per month to rent office space on the 15th floor of Trump Tower, a space previously rented by his campaign, according to campaign finance filings and a person familiar with the Political Action Committee. Bear in mind, of course, that like he's not actively running for anything. He's just maintaining these PACs. They're raising money, and then the money is being spent on things like real estate that he owns, which is amazing. The rate that they're paying is about $85 per square foot. It's close to the average for Midtown Manhattan, though it's less than the $122 per square foot that Trump got from Mark Fisher Footwear, who is like some others, former tenants of his. Now, many of those have apparently gone out of business or moved out of the building, opening up more space for him to potentially rent to himself. But what makes it even worse is it's not just that like they've decided to use his building rather than some other building. It's that they've also just rented out way more room than they actually have any need for so that they can spend more money on it. Under typical office conditions, with about 1 worker per 175 square feet, the space that he's rented in Trump Tower might hold 30 people. But according to the latest filings, just 3 people actually are listed at that address. Those 3 don't even always work there, according to a person familiar with the PAC. They work from home or follow Trump around the country to places like Palm Beach and Bedminster, New Jersey. Also, for several months, Trump's PAC paid the Trump organization $3,000 per month to rent a retail kiosk in the tower's lobby, even though the lobby was closed, which makes that sort of a weird bit of spending. Oops, $3,000 that were donated to his PAC suddenly became his money. And supposedly, all of this is legal. There's actually nothing in campaign finance law that stops him from spending that much or potentially significantly more and just turning donations into his money. It's an amazing con if you can maintain it. And apparently he can, even when he's not in office.
This is the dirtiest money laundering scheme I've ever seen. It's so lazy. And the worst part is I guess it's technically legal. And to make matters worse than that, like, they're fine with it. People who donated to Trump, it's like the prosperity gospel. They just give the money to him. And what's weird is it kind of becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. That's not exactly that, but people think Trump is rich because he's such a great businessman and he knows how to negotiate deals and do all this stuff. No, he just said that about himself. And then was able to convince people. I've been watching like Sex in the City and The Sopranos. And all they do is references to Trump. Like they talk about Trump all the time. You'll be listening to like 90s hip hop and they'll mention Donald Trump all the time. Not because at that time, he was going through bankruptcies at that very moment. It was before The Apprentice came on, or maybe at the beginning that rebooted him. And even that was him telling you that he's successful and telling you that he's great at all this stuff. So people give him money. That's how he gets good at it. That's how he gets rich, is because he's convinced you he's rich and you give him more money for it. And it all goes right into his pocket. It's sick, but it's brilliant.
It is brilliant. It is brilliant. And I think that your fundamentals are right. Now, I don't think all of them necessarily would be fine with the spending, but I think the vast majority, I mean, they barely cared. Remember those stories we were talking about over the last year that he's still doing? When he signs people up to automatically have money deducted from their accounts and it's all like in small print and everything. They barely cared about that. That's like robbery. It's this, Trump is never going to take a plane to your house, kick down your door and steal your valuables, your whatever, your china. Like this is as close to robbery as he is willing to get and interested in getting. And they're pretty much fine with that. They're pretty much fine with that. So look, this to me isn't an issue for Trump, obviously. And it's not an issue, honestly, that really affects the vast majority of the people that watch this show because they're not gonna give money to him. It's not like they're being conned. But I will throw it out there as evidence piece number 5,000 that we need to fundamentally change campaign finance laws. Whether something like this is morally right or whatever, or whether his fans like it, I don't care. It shouldn't be allowed. You should not be able to set up schemes like this to enrich yourself via your donors. If they want to send checks to Trump himself, they can do that and he can pay taxes on it. Anyway,
it's like a mega church. That's it.
Yeah.
And they get high off of this feeling of being part of this larger power, which is Donald Trump, who, by the way, isn't holding church every Sunday anymore. He isn't even doing that. Like he's basically, if a mega church pastor was able to get away with maybe like holding a sermon once every 6 weeks.
Sure.
But people are still chucking money on it. And it's also, it kind of graduates into like this Jesus prospect because they want him to come again. And it builds into that narrative like Christ is risen. Trump will come again, which is even grosser given his sexual assault charges and accusations.
That could have been a very smooth transition to the next topic. Instead, it went down a different avenue. But you know what? We're gonna push ahead. Let's jump into this. Lauren Windsor making news once again. The undercurrent is back, and I didn't see it coming. So what am I talking about here? Well, you might have seen reporting that Jim Jordan apparently is in Ohio, and he was quoted as having talked to someone and saying that Trump is going to come to Ohio or whatever, and he's going to announce any day that he's running for president again. He didn't say whether he himself was considering running for the presidency. I didn't even know that Jim Jordan was a person that we think is going to try to. Do they even like him that much? But he said Trump is close to making a decision, saying I talked to him yesterday. That was what was reported. Now, right after all of that information came out, a spokesperson for Representative Jim Jordan denied the reporter's claim that he was talking about Trump. They said not true. Mr. Jordan did not say this. But I guess what they didn't know is that Lauren Windsor had already been there, and she actually had a little conversation with Jim Jordan herself. So let's go to this video.
President Trump, he's going to run again.
You think so?
I know so.
Okay.
I talked to him yesterday. He's about ready to announce after all this craziness in Afghanistan.
Thank God. Yeah, like Biden should.
Yeah, he said,
Part of my friends, kind of.
yeah, he said he's really bad. Really bad. So,
Okay, well, I want to know.
well, thank you for coming.
Thanks a lot.
Yeah, so look, I had seen this story going around, and honestly, I was only kind of interested in it. But then when I saw that it was her, and I was like, we got to talk about this. How is she everywhere talking to everyone on the ground? And is she gradually losing her mind, having to pretend that she's a MAGA girl all day long?
Well, if you ask how she's able to get that close, the literal answer is just a hat, it seems.
That's really all it takes, is you wear the hat, and they have no ability to discern.
If it's bright red or has camo, then you can just walk by. Like head to a Bass Pro Shop, snag a hat, and or a MAGA hat, and then you'll do it.
Or a gun. You'd probably be good with a gun. But anyway, so look, the spokesperson just, I guess they don't care, but looks like an idiot denying it when the video had already been taken at that point. But anyway, I guess, look, so first of all, continued good work by Lauren Windsor. Like most of these viral stories, she ends up being involved in some way. The show is Undercurrent, so definitely go check that out. You should follow Lauren Windsor on Twitter. On the other side of it, hold on to your butts, because apparently this is coming soon, according to her reporting. And Jim Jordan is apparently going around talking to everyone about how this is going to come soon. So prepare yourself, because I guess he's getting ready to announce.
So
years in advance.
When listening to that statement, it is amazing. Everything about it looks horrible for Jim Jordan, because either he's spilling the beans early and is accurately doing so, in which case, or he's just trying to seem cool, like he knows Trump, like he's with him all the time. God, I talked to him today. Did you talk to him on January 6th? I can't remember. I don't know. What about those kids in the bathroom and the sexual assault? But I talked to him yesterday and we're best buds, and he's gonna announce that he's running. But I think the first case and the second case, those are both equally horrible for Jim Jordan, because if he got out in front of this and said that Trump is about ready to announce, which he said that, and if it's true, then he got in the way of Trump doing that. Now, I don't know. If I'm Trump, there's two factors that feed into this. One, the first factor is what will get people to talk about me the most at any given moment of breathing human life. And this is fine. So that plays into people talking about it. And two, when should I'm definitely running for president. When should I announce my second run for president as a function of like whether it will allow me to raise more money that I will then launder through my properties and put in my pocket?
Yeah.
Because if it would get people, if people would stop talking to him for a second, but it would cost him money, then I think he would, let it lie or whatever. But I think those are the two factors that he's taken into consideration.
I think that you're probably right. Unfortunately, that is all the time we have for this first hour. So if you're on Twitch or YouTube, we got more news coming. We got a quick break, but we'll be back in just a few. Welcome back, everyone. More news to come with me and Brett Erlich. But first, some messages. Rialan says in the super chat, did Brett move into Tucker's daytime set or Jimmy Kimmel's house? Everything's wood.
The wife was bothered by like one of these things, so she came in and just like barely opened one of the shutters. So funny.
Okay.
I think I'm gonna leave that fireplace thing on forever. It's so
I think
soothing.
that's what that computer should be. It's basically a digital frame.
I mean, I don't know which one this is. I have one that I got when this model first came out. It's basically like got everything I've worked on burned into the screen, but I think this is the TYT.
Soon the fire will be burned in the screen. Ray Turner says Brett's a lumberjack and he's okay. He sleeps all night and he works all day.
Try on women's clothing all the long day.
Robbie and Chris Ferguson, welcome to Tier 1 YouTube membership. Thank you for being with us. Appreciate you. Let's see. Doomslayer Dragon says, do we know if COVID vanilla is still kicking around out there or has Delta outperformed it to extinction? Not to extinction in the United States, but Delta is all over the place. Zombol says, we need laws now that everyone can sue anyone who helped a shooter get a gun. Texas abortion ban would crumble fast. Yeah, I know. It makes sense. We'll see. Like there's no argument for the constitutionality, but
no.
Maybe they won't pick it up, or if they do, maybe it'll be in a year, and they're letting the law stand until then. And by then, many other states will have it. Florida is gonna have it.
It's so like I just don't understand how you have standing as a human, as a vigilante. Like it's a civil case. How do you have standing? How does it affect you at all? The mechanism here would allow me to pass a law if I'm a Jew to sue you for eating pork because my religion thinks that you're being evil.
Yeah. Or look, let's do a closer comparison. If you suspect that someone else has performed a circumcision, we're getting $10,000 out of those people because of my religion, and it's to a baby. So no, you can't. It doesn't make any sense. But that's why they're doing it. They're not making an argument that it makes sense. They've done just enough to muddy the waters, and they can leave it for a year or two. Anyway, yes, people outside of the state can do it. Anyway, let's see. Andrew Singh says self-recommendation, no praise. I don't know. I think we've moved on. I don't know what it was a reference to, but thank you for the super chat. Much appreciated. Let's see. Jordani gifted 5 tier 1 subs on Twitch. Thank you very much. Trekkie Nurse Dragon gifted 5 as well. Closing in on 100 total gifted subs. Thank you. Susarabs cheered 300 bits, and Mother Effing Woman Dragon gifted 2 tier 1 subs as well. Thank you to all of you. Brian Harper says just found TYT. Awesome progressive hub. Thank you. I have to remind myself that like new people find us each day. It seems weird, but thank you for being one of those people. And with that said, let's roll on to the news. We got some garbage to take out in just a little bit, but first, this video.
Here we go into Mesquite to confront this administration, breaking multiple state laws, causing major disturbance to a family. I think we go up this way. So we're going to confront them, tell them they're breaking the law. And if they don't comply with the law, we're going to call the sheriff and ask for them to be arrested. If necessary, we'll do a citizen's arrest. Because these people who are supposed to be public servants can't just take the law into their own hands and think that they can just step all over parental rights. The Attorney General made it quite clear, as did the governor, that you can't quarantine healthy children. That's denying them an education. It's creating fear. It's imposing on the lives of parents who have to work. I'll show you what Frank's holding here. My girlfriend might be on right now. Okay. Sure. Okay. Here, I'll show you. Law enforcement zip ties.
Okay, so we're gonna break down all the details of this. At the core of it, though, I just want to point out that they are marching, making the case. How can they take the law into their own hands as they're going to zip tie a school principal for breaking laws that they never cite? They never say what laws are being broken. But anyway, the person filming that is Kelly Walker, who owns a Viva Coffee shop in Tucson. Just bear that in mind. Live streamed the incident on his business's Instagram account. Because if you get lattes there, you want to watch him zip tie a dude, I guess. Anyway, he's going because the school is making a kid quarantine. Now, bear in mind, the kid that's gonna quarantine is not his kid. He doesn't have kids that go to that school.
This is like Matt Walsh being like, I'm going down to that school board meeting. And I'm gonna tell them they can't quarantine my kid, and not my kid because I homeschool my kid, but kids because I'm bored. Guys, you don't understand. And my favorite part is Frank. Frank's like, no, I'm willing to zip tie the guy, but I'd rather not have anyone know that I was involved in it. Shouldn't that be an indicator that you're doing something bad? Yeah, that you don't want your face to be affiliated with it. Like, he wants to wear like a metaphorical mask. He wants to be masked from the public eye when he goes and does this kind of stuff, which is hilariously ironic that he wants to wear a mask.
Totally.
It's so stupid. These guys going down there and doing it. You don't understand what this is all about. He needs to understand that when folks on Facebook spread like ivermectin conspiracy nonsense, it's not for you to then go do anything about it. They're doing it so you can complain. And I know that in this world, there's less stuff to just like complain about. Like there's not that person at the office. There's not the person at the mall who's parking weird, or like it's you're at home with your family and you feel bad about complaining about your own family because you're supposed to theoretically love them. But it's very obvious. He's talking about this burden. Now he can't take his kids to school to get the hell out of the house anymore. Like that's the obvious reason. They're going crazy, and I understand, but bud, we're all going crazy. Yeah. All of us are going crazy. You're gonna have to be a man and deal with it. Like your grandfather had to go to war. You have to go into another room when your kid's having class on Zoom. Get over it.
It's comparable. Anyway, the guy claims at some point in the video, I'm a scientist who wrote about COVID for doctors and dentists all over the country. I don't even know what that means. Like individual dentists don't have scientists that work for them and write up COVIDs. That's not how anything works. It's also no evidence that he's a scientist, but I don't know, the first sign was that they think that like you have your own staff scientist who just does reports for you. That's not how it works.
No, do you need barista? Like you go to a coffee shop, he's like, yeah, there's like used in AeroPress, which like they'll tell you exactly what degree to pour the water in. Like that is not science.
Yeah. You being like the brewmaster isn't a doctoral level pursuit thing. It's admirable doing those designs. I can't do them, and I was a barista, but it's not the same thing really. Anyway, the police eventually came. We don't know if they're gonna press charges, but we're just throwing this video out there to remind you again that all of this, there's always lurking, sometimes a little bit hidden, sometimes very explicit. They want violence. They definitely want to see it, and more of them want to be a part of it.
They're the Taliban.
Anyway, yeah, it's the same thing. It's the same thing. It's maybe the timeline's a bit off a little bit. Same thing. Anyway, okay, let's switch things up. Let's jump into this video.
You can see that Texas has anonymously set up a system where you can report people who have gotten abortions. Wouldn't it be so awful if we sent in a bunch of fake tips and crash the site? Like Greg Abbott's butt stinks. Spelt wrong, of course, because he deserves zero respect. How did you obtain this evidence? Smelt it from here in California. The doctor responsible, Dr. Stinkbutt.
Well, he would be the expert, I suppose. But anyway, it's a great video there from TikTok, and it's part of an all hands on deck social media campaign to make it as difficult as possible for the fascist goons in Texas to do their scheme to effectively dog the bounty hunter, your reproductive rights away. And so the TikToker you saw there has her own sort of comedic way of doing it, but others are doing things like, for instance, if we can jump ahead to this photo, individuals submitting 742 fake reports to flood the abortion reporting website. You have Redditors saying that they submitted reports blaming the state of Texas for facilitating abortions by having highways that allow people to travel to the procedure. I personally blame Mother Earth for having an oxygen-rich atmosphere that allows one to survive on the surface, where generally abortion providers can be found. Another TikTok user showed how he's uploading Shrek memes, claiming they were images proving my wife aborted her baby 4 weeks into her pregnancy without consulting me. Meanwhile, others are encouraging people to upload image attachments containing various kinds of porn. So why are they doing this? Well, they're submitting the Shrek memes because the websites allow you to upload photos. And I want you to really think about what that's designed to allow for. Like what photos are gonna be uploaded? Of who? Whose privacy is by design gonna be violated by that? By the sort of people who are gonna seriously engage with a website like that. Well, we have a little bit more, Brett, but what do you think about this campaign? It reminds me of some of the K-pop like taking over of hashtags a bit.
Like, are these people gonna get sued for gumming up the works so that they're enabling people? Basically, if my spamming of this website makes it less likely that the intention of the law will be satisfied, and that these things, with a bunch of fake reports, it'll gum up the works and the actual reports will fall through the cracks. Are you now facilitating clinics to perform abortions? Are they gonna get sued for it? There is no way on God's green earth that any real Supreme Court justice should allow this law to continue. It should have been stopped immediately because it does not pass the sniff test. The fact that they have to use these insane, as they're described, novel legal conventions to do it. Because the intent of the law is to subvert Roe v. Wade. That is why they wrote it that way. That's acknowledged all over the place that's what they're doing and why. So their intent is nefarious, not to mention, like, there is no way in hell, as this proves, that any mechanism for reporting this is going to be like a useful, reasonable method of implementing this law. Not to mention the civil case that you're bringing. Are you kidding me?
Yeah. Well, and look, why go to all of these novel things? Well, they're doing all of this because you know what they haven't been able to do for 50 years? Convince a majority of the American public that abortion should be outlawed. They haven't been able to do that, and they're not trying to do that anymore. People don't actually support this. They don't even support this in Texas, but they don't give a damn about what people actually want. They're not trying to run on a popular like platform or anything like that. They're exercising power through whatever means they can. That's what they're doing. And so we too, I guess, need to do this. Now, I'm not advising anyone to do anything. I'm just sharing. Somehow this graphic ended up in my thing. So Sarah Hartshorn says, don't spam the Texas Right to Life whistleblower tip line. That would be terrible. Yes, I'm including a link to it, but only so nobody wastes those anti-abortion a-holes time. That would be bad. And definitely have not been doing that. She did report a guy who, let's say, finished on a woman's stomach and got God mad. That should not be allowed, and we want to make sure that he gets in trouble. And if that means that the people who are managing the prolifewhistleblower.com website are looking into that rather than something else, well, that's just the way it works. And so if you have any tips, you should go there. Only serious tips though. Do not spam this. Do not waste their time. Only serious tips and as many as possible. Anyway, Brett, are you ready to do the one chore that we do a week? Are we ready, team?
Sure, yeah.
Okay, we're gonna go to that in 1 second. And before that, though, I am gonna remind people that Indisputable with Dr. Rashad Ritchie is coming up. Jackson White is gonna be joining Dr. Rashad as the co-host. Jason Lefkowitz will be there for a debate as well. And immediately after that on Twitch, you can watch Galaxy Brain with Ben Carollo. By the way, later on today, Ray Vana is gonna be joining us for the power panel. So a lot to look forward to on the TYT network. That said, oh, awesome. Are we ready to go? Okay, Brett, prepare yourself. It's the end of the week, and so it's time to take out the trash. Brett, who is your garbage person of the week?
My garbage person of the week is Florida Senate President, what is his name? Wilton Simpson.
That sounds like a name you'd make up.
Wilton Simpson, yes. And Tank Flankerly, I believe, is another one I came up, Fingerly or something. Anyway, so Wilton Simpson, the president of the Florida Senate, has been quoted as saying that there is absolutely no question that Florida will move forward with a 6-week abortion ban law. Now, it's not just that he said that. So here's the headline from the Tampa Bay Times. Florida legislature will consider abortion heartbeat bill, Senate president says. Now, if we zoom in on that subheading, this next graphic will reveal when asked for comment about potential new abortion restrictions, Wilton Simpson sent a reporter the smiling sunglasses emoji. Don't believe me? Just watch. Let's go to the previous graphic of the interaction. So here is the Wilton Simpson was texted by a reporter from the Tampa Bay Times. Is this true, essentially? And look, his response was just that sunglass emoji. This is a story that even his own people are saying, we're saving children from dying. Sunglass emoji.
That's gravitas right there. It's obviously taking it very seriously.
And that's it. He did not elaborate. His confirmation of the case was frickin' sunglass emoji. As they're turning Texas into Gilead, and Florida seeks to follow suit with same, with a governor who's been amenable to that kind of legislation in the past, he responds with a sunglass emoji. The only way to make it more Florida is if that was bright orange and peeling.
I was like trying to think, is there a worse emoji he could? Well, I mean, I guess technically he could have sent like the eggplant or something. But in terms of the faces, that might be the most condescending that he could have sent in this very particular case. Brett, I know you just moved, so you may not be stocked up on home essentials, but do you have any zip ties? Just out of curiosity.
I do, but I have the ones that are just annoying. The ones that you're like, oh God, I didn't mean to close this yet, so I have to cut it.
Just like, so if the belief out there among women is that men are callously, with little thought and no respect, deciding what they can and can't do with their bodies, I don't know a better way to confirm it than with the sunglasses emoji. Total garbage, but it's Florida, so he's probably like, when that news gets out to his constituents, he'll probably win re-election with a greater share of the vote. Absolute garbage. Okay, you wanna go to mine?
Yeah.
I don't, that's the thing. I really don't. My garbage person of the week is regrettably Tucker Carlson for doing what he does. Let's go to this video.
Last night, the Supreme Court of the United States ruled on a new abortion law in the state of Texas. That decision came down, by the way, 5-4. That's the exact split that decided Roe v. Wade almost 50 years ago. So it's good enough to have meaning. This time, the court upheld a Texas law that effectively bans abortion once a fetal heartbeat is detected. Typically, that's about 6 weeks into a pregnancy. Now, this new law does not allow the government of Texas to enforce the ban, so no one's going to jail over abortion. Instead, the new law lets citizens sue clinics that commit illegal abortions. So no matter how you feel about abortion, it's kind of hard to argue this is an especially radical law. Intentionally stopping a person's heart from beating is the definition of killing. Government has a right to regulate that. In fact, deciding when it's okay to kill a person is, on the most basic level, the whole reason to have laws in the first place. So whether it's right or wrong, or whether you like it or not, it's not a crazy statute.
So we sort of crossed over. Basically, pick a random entitled rich white guy and he doesn't give a damn about what happens to all these women. But in this particular case, there's a few reasons I chose him as my garbage person. Here's the most shallow. It wasn't 5-4 that Roe v. Wade was decided. It was 7-2. It takes 3 seconds of research to know that, and I'm sure that he does, as he claims that it was 5-4 and then smiles at the camera. And it's not just that he got the fact wrong, which is weird enough considering the staff he has. It's that he used that similarity to what the Supreme Court just did as a point. But no, it was 7-2. Anyway, he doesn't acknowledge why the state isn't enforcing it. He mentions it. He doesn't mention that that's obviously purposefully done to try to allow the Supreme Court the cover they need to not actually rule on it. He doesn't talk about the prospect of other bounty laws, some of which, by the way, he might end up not liking were they to be passed. He doesn't engage in any way with any of the substance of the bill. He just states in his waxed-faced apathetic tone that no, stopping someone from exercising the rights they've had for more than a half century after just 6 weeks isn't radical. No one could possibly think that. If anyone tells you it's radical, it's not. By the way, Joe Biden is a radical commie. That's his show, effectively. It is putting a bored expression, a bored face on the insane Christian fascist, I almost swore, stuff that they're doing right now. And his almost entirely old male audience is going to eat it up, because although many of them have enthusiastically been involved in abortions in the past, and they know that if anyone they care about needs one, they'll be able to get one. It's just great to think about the fact that all these poor people in Texas won't.
Everyone.
Quickly, sorry.
So, all right, I'll just say this. Tucker Carlson has no logic on his show ever. He says stuff and then he says so, ipso facto, essentially. And then he says something that does not follow whatsoever from what he just said.
Yes.
But people hear him. It's almost musical. It's like na 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 na. And because of that resolution to the next chord, that guy, everyone's like, oh, it sounded like he set up and made a conclusion. But if you take it and parse it out and look at what he's arguing, it doesn't make any sense. It is all the style of something that is a coherent argument, but there is no substance there, and that is textbook Tucker Carlson.
Exactly. Well, those are our garbage people. Who did you choose? Well, 39,000 of you, nearly matching the record, voted this week. And coming in at number 5 with 1% of you have Tate for claiming Christians aren't scared of COVID. Nobody cares about Tate Reeves, I guess. Number 4 with 7% of the vote is the Wisconsin School Board for refusing to provide free lunches to students. I'm glad that people are still thinking about that. Number 3 with 10% of the vote is Joe Rogan for promoting everything but the vaccine to fight COVID. Number 2, 11% of the vote is Madison Cawthorn for his comments celebrating the insurrectionists, but in an overwhelming victory, just about as high as we've ever had. Your community garbage person of the week with 70% of the vote is the Supreme Court for allowing Texas's draconian abortion law. So we may not have all agreed on the exact person responsible for this or who we're mad at, but that's pretty much what the community cares about, and I think that's very understandable. Brett, thank you as always for joining us from your chalet. We appreciate you being here. Very excited for Game Busters later on. There's a lot coming up, basically. Stay tuned. Indisputable is coming up in just a few, but we got to run. And so until next time, stay safe out there. Stay sane out there. I'll see you soon.
What's happening? Welcome. It is Indisputable. I'm your host, Rashad Richey. Good to be with you. We got a lot on the agenda today. Ladies and gentlemen, breaking down news of the day. We got my big homie, Jackson White, co-founder and editor-in-chief of Politiscope, TYT Rebel HQ creator as well. And he has an interesting story. Something went down not too long ago that he's going to share with us right here on Indisputable. My top news story for today. Just a couple of years ago, a young black male was jogging in a white community. His name is Ahmaud Arbery. Mr. Arbery was brutally gunned down by white residents of that local community. This was in Brunswick, Georgia. The DA decided to engage in a cover-up, not arresting the men responsible for the murder. As a matter of fact, getting directly involved and telling the cops, do not execute an arrest. And there's a reason, there's a why. Well, that DA has now been indicted. Let me take you back to that original scene. I gotta warn you, this is graphic. Brutal, vicious, and I would argue premeditated murder. So let me tell you why I would argue premeditated murder here. According to the two men who were initially arrested for this after months of not being arrested, Gregory and Travis McMichael, they said, there he goes, grabbed a weapon and got in their pickup truck. Well, that means that you were waiting for him because Mr. Arbery would frequently jog in that local community. There's your premeditation. So let me give you some background to this, and I have to read my notes from the side, so forgive me if it looks weird to you, okay? A former Georgia prosecutor has now been indicted on misconduct charges, alleging she used her position to shield the men who chased and killed Ahmaud Arbery from being charged with crimes immediately after the shootings. Now, let me remind you that no one looked at this a second time. Literally, when it went down in that local community, the local news did a quick story about it and nothing else. That was it. And then we started to see the story move outside of that local bubble. I say this to let you know the impact of free press, the impact of media. And once the story started to gain traction with the public, all of a sudden, this district attorney, who has now been indicted, she decided to step away from the case and transfer the case to another DA as a special prosecutor in what's called the Waycross Judicial Circuit. Now, that person, I believe, should be indicted as well, and I will get into that in just a moment. A grand jury in Glenn County indicted former Brunswick Judicial Circuit DA Jackie Johnson on charges of violating her oath and hindering a law enforcement officer. Let's put up a picture of Jackie Johnson next to Ahmaud Arbery. Now remember, Jackie Johnson took an oath to protect people like Ahmaud Arbery, who were victims of crimes. She decided not to uphold that oath. Arbery was killed February 23rd, 2020, after a white father and son, Greg and Travis McMichael, armed themselves and pursued the 25-year-old black man in a pickup truck after spotting him running in their neighborhood outside the coastal city of Brunswick. Let's put up a picture of this father and son criminal duo. There you have it. Now, the father, keep that picture up. The father is a former employee of Jackie Johnson. He was an investigator in the DA's office. This guy, as a former employee, literally was about to get away with murder because Jackie Johnson protected him and his son. Let's put up the picture of the third guy who was involved on the pickup truck, okay? That is William Roddy Bryan Jr. Mr. Bryan recorded the incident and has now turned into a witness for the prosecution. He gets absolutely no hero cookie for this. He was trying to save his own ass because he knew that these men committed cold-blooded murder. A neighbor, William Roddy Bryan Jr., joined the chase and took cell phone video of Travis McMichael shooting Arbery. That's the son. Travis is the son. Shooting Arbery at close range with a shotgun. The McMichaels said they believe Arbery was a burglar and that he was shot after attacking Travis McMichael with his fist. It doesn't work that way. They tried to use the stand your ground, or in Georgia, is the citizens arrest rule. Every time they try to utilize one of these statutes in order to give them cover. Well, it actually worked with the DA, and it worked with the DA who the case got referred to. It gets deeper, okay? Police did not charge any of them immediately following the shooting. And the McMichaels and Bryan remained free for more than 2 months until the Georgia Bureau of Investigation took over the case. Well, that was because of political pressure. Black Lives Matter, the media, protests, rallies all over the state of Georgia. I participated in a lot of them personally. Then the GBI gets involved. What happens when the GBI got involved? All 3 men were charged. All of them charged with murder. Now they face trial, okay? George McMichael had worked as an investigator in Johnson's office and left her a cell phone message following the shooting. The indictment says Johnson showed favor and affection toward Greg McMichael in the investigation and interfered with police officers at the scene by directing that Travis McMichael should not be placed under arrest. Now, I want to remind you, the DA is not in charge of the police department. The DA is not the chief of police. The DA is not the sheriff. But this DA had enough power, had enough authority to tell the police what to do and not to do. Scratch my back, I scratch your back. Now, we're talking about this cover up. How many other cover-ups do you think this DA was already involved in to be able to tell the local police what to do and not to do? It gets deeper. This DA insisted, Johnson insisted, she did nothing wrong, saying she immediately recused herself from the case because Greg McMichael was a former employee. That's a lie. She did not immediately recuse herself. She got directly involved. That's a lie. She recommended an outside prosecutor. That is the truth. She eventually did that. The Waycross Judicial Circuit DA, George Barnhill. I want you to remember that name because he has not been indicted and he should be. George Barnhill, who was appointed to the case and concluded no charges were warranted. George Barnhill literally wrote a letter spelling out why no charges were warranted in this case. Barnhill later stepped aside after the Arbery family got involved and said, wait a minute. Another DA writes a letter as if he's a defense attorney saying this is why these gentlemen should not be charged with murder. Come to find out, this guy, Barnhill, his son works for the original district attorney who covered up the whole murder. Jackson, Southern justice, man, you know?
Yeah, I think there are several things that I want to highlight that you pointed out that are important. The first and the biggest is that, again, without the media, this may have just completely went under the rug and she may have been able to get away with things like this. And also to pinpoint how often this type of stuff happens in the United States, simply because it's not getting enough attention to really move the needle in any type of significant way. And the laws like the citizens arrest and stand your ground, which really allow people to act on their bloodlust and then pretend like they were just looking out for their community, as if the main people who are burglarizing their communities aren't the same skin color as them. You know, they live in white communities, therefore most of the people doing the crimes in those communities are the same color as them. They're just going out, they're just looking to take action upon their hateful instincts. And so really cases like this where we see how white America preserves itself is some of the purest evidence for the racial pillars that the country was founded on. Because there's always been this constant battle to keep privilege within a certain pocket. And slowly as it erodes, that culture and that foundation still presents itself in cases like this, because nobody else in the country really has the ability to move the way that white America does in instances like this. So, you know, again, luckily for the media, we got to have some sort of justice on this, at least in a sense of systematically getting her out of there with an indictment. But, you know, that's really just a Band-Aid over a much larger issue.
You're absolutely correct. It is a microcosm and still does not solve the macrocosm of injustice that happens in situations like this. I did have the opportunity to speak with Ahmaud Arbery's mom, his aunt, and others who led the charge to make sure this DA did not get reelected. And big ups to them for staying the course even beyond the protest and taking it to the ballot and making sure this person no longer has any executive power in law enforcement. Let me shift gears. Remember the guy who decided to criminally assault an NBC correspondent? He's been on the run. Well, he has now been caught. Let me remind you of the original situation. Here it is.
They did get some reports of some down power lines, of some trees that have fallen, or at least limbs that have fallen. So they're going to go ahead and do that survey to make sure that they're okay. Craig, I'm going to toss it back because we have a person who needs a little help right now.
Hey. We're going to check in with Shaq Brewster just to make sure all is well. There's a lot of crazy out there, a lot of crazy. And Bill Cairns, thank you as well. Again, we'll make sure Shaq's okay.
More than crazy, sir. It's called privilege and criminality, okay? Now, the Gulfport police, they issued warrants on Tuesday for this individual. His name is Dagley, okay? With 2 counts of simple assault, 1 count of disturbance of the peace, and 1 count of violating emergency curfew. Police said Dagley is on probation for a previous charge in Ohio. And the charge is so menacing. Let me remind you of what happened in Ohio. According to the authorities, Dagley was involved in a financial dispute with an electroplating company when he broke into the facility in 2019 and drilled holes in tanks. Now, I want to remind you, this happened in 2019, okay? The man is free today. In 2019, he drilled holes in tanks containing sodium cyanide, hydrochloric acid, yellow chromate, barious chloride, and sulfuric acid. The incident sent a security guard to the hospital, okay? With cyanide poisoning. You can die from that. An employee said the released chemicals were severe enough to cause a large scale catastrophe. And Dagley knew what he was doing. This criminal also has been charged with battery for punching a security guard at the facility during a previous incident. All right. The United States Marshals, they did confirm that they picked up Benjamin Dagley, who was arrested in connection to the assault on the MSNBC reporter Shaquille Brewster during a live broadcast in Mississippi on Monday. He was taken into custody, and guess what this guy was doing? He was at a shopping center in Ohio. Put up a picture of this guy, this clown. There he is. All right. Jackson, when this first happened, right? Mm-hmm. We saw a white middle-aged male driving by a reporter knowing that the camera was rolling. jumped in front of that camera, criminally assaulted this reporter on camera. And I'm now of the mindset, brother, that they are doing things like this in order to get an audience, not to avoid one, but to be visible, to be very public about their criminal activity.
I think that's a good point. I hadn't really thought of that, but that actually makes sense. And especially for a guy like this, who's gotten away with things that can cause a large scale catastrophe. You know, in the picture of him, he clearly looks out of his mind. You know, this is a guy who, like you said, is soaked in privilege in such a way that he feels that he can go on camera, assault a man. And what is he even talking about? Report the hurricane accurately. Like it's a hurricane, it's blowing things over, it's causing a lot of flooding. Like what else is there really to say about it? But you know, I mean, why do such grand scale things if nobody can see you doing it? You know what I mean? So that does make sense. I think that's a good point.
Yeah, and you know, let me tell you who else I blame here, brother. And people sometimes they'll say, you know, Doc, you're too hard on people. You're going too far. The criminal justice system that allowed this domestic terrorist to be free in the first place. I mean, damn, they caught him in 2019. Mm-hmm. How in the world do you commit that kind of act and be outside of your state to commit an act like that again? I don't understand it, because I guarantee you, if his last name would have been Muhammad, he would still be in prison this very moment. There will be no ambiguity about that whatsoever.
And also that does.
Go ahead, brother.
I was just saying what that does to someone's psyche. You get away with stuff like that, you naturally feel like you can do whatever you want. So, yeah.
Yeah, everything has a cause and effect relationship. All right, we got more on the other side. It's indisputable, stick and stay.
I'm in Salt Lake City, Utah. I'm at a Wolf-PAC gathering.
We're growing. I see faces that I recognize, but I also see a lot of faces that I don't recognize, and that's fantastic.
We are all taking time out of our lives to be here, and that's amazing. That means we truly believe in this. Make no mistake, everyone in this room is a leader in Wolf-PAC.
Alaska, West Virginia, Montana, Georgia, Massachusetts, New York, New Jersey, everyone is here. All these folks paid with their own money and sometimes took vacation days to come here to strategize on how to get our democracy back and get money out of politics.
Or you get more political power just because you have more money. This is why it requires a constitutional amendment.
The process of winning in your state next year doesn't begin when session begins. It begins right now.
To work to a goal, something this big that you're actually making a difference of, there's very few things in the world that really compare to that feeling.
Equal rights to fair representation, rights for human beings, anti-corruption laws, and free and fair elections. That's what we are fighting for.
What were the founding fathers? Revolutionaries. And they built revolution into the document.
So Article 5 is the way we have to go.
This is how you do it.
You're in this as a team, you're in this together. The fight will always continue.
That fight is not between the left and the right. That fight is between basically greed and humanity.
So I'm asking you to put differences aside, whether you're conservative or independent or progressive, to join forces to say no more corruption.
And you get beyond the fear, you take that first step, and you'll change the world.
What I want to leave you with, of course, is hope. And I want to assure you that if we keep fighting together, we're going to win together. We're going to get that convention, we're going to get that amendment, and we're going to get our democracy back. Come join us, wolf-pac.com.
Sharp increase in healthcare insurance premiums next year in response to the ongoing coronavirus pandemic.
The country is desperate for Medicare for all, but the mainstream media will tell you nonstop lies about how people don't want it.
Between 5.8 million and 23 million lost their healthcare just during this pandemic. And Joe Biden says, no, I don't think that's an argument for Medicare for all.
How are you going to find $35 trillion?
They constantly misstate things, but without explaining that the current system costs at least $50 trillion. Every other developed nation has a single payer system, and they all pay less. In fact, on average, they pay about half of what we pay.
It doesn't matter if taxes go up, if your healthcare costs go way, way down.
The for-profit health insurance companies are simply a scam, price gouging you, and they're in between you and your doctor.
Look, guys, the good news is we're gonna win. We're gonna get Medicare for all.
A famous new author has a book out. His name is Dogan Uger. That's my dad. Okay, the name of the book is called The Original Young Turk, and it's his life story. I read it, trust me, you're gonna love it. He has such a straightforward way of telling stories that you're gonna be amused by it. It's like, well, then I met JFK, then I was at the White House, then I started a business, then I became Businessman of the Year. It's amazing. You're gonna love the stories, and it's part of what made me progressive. Check it out at shoptyt.com.
It is wrong to deny any of your fellow Americans the right to vote in this country.
Look, I tell you guys, most important thing is voting in primaries. Primaries.
I hope every American will vote for the candidate and party of his choice, but vote.
We cannot continue to complain about corruption and complain about what's happening in this country and continue to vote for it.
Let's get it right this time. It could be a moment of redemption for what happened in 2016.
Fun.
All right, welcome back. It's Indisputable. We got a lot on the agenda for this show. Let me go to these amazing comments. And before I get to the comments, let me do some housekeeping, okay? If you're watching Indisputable right now, I'm talking to you. If you're watching Indisputable on the Damage Report on the YouTube channel, okay? I wanna say thank you. Thank you, thank you. There will be a change. Next, I need every single one of you, starting Monday, September 13th, to go to our live stream, because this one on the Damage Report will disappear. We knew this was coming at some point. My big homie John and the team, they have been so gracious, making sure we had that great lead in, but it will now be independent, okay? So make sure you go to Indisputable TYT if you enjoyed this program format on the YouTube channel, okay? That's youtube.com/indisputable TYT. That's all you gotta do. Subscribe there if you're watching me on the Damage Reports YouTube channel, all right? Also, never miss, I wish Karen would, never miss the bullpen, never miss any of that great stuff. Make sure you are a subscriber. I'm counting on you, because without you as the audience, we cannot be as effective with social justice, with exposing political corruption. We're talking about the nuances of our social ills and also the remedy of our social solutions, okay? That takes you being involved. All right, we got some more. Game Busters tonight kick off the weekend with some friendly competition with Game Busters on Twitch. All right, that's on Twitch. Join Jordan Yule and Brett Erlich every Friday night, 8:30 p.m., 5:30 p.m. Okay, we're gonna go to Slate. We'll be right back. Indisputable. All right, welcome back. Let me apologize. We're having some technical issues here, but we are still live and we're still broadcasting. So forgive us for those technical issues. We're going to get through it, okay? Let me read some of these amazing viewer comments. Just Be Anti-Racist says, every single time I hear those gunshots, the sounds just shake me to my core. I actually physically shake. I had the same experience the first few times I saw that. It was so insane what they did to him. So evil. All right, Mickey C, the silver-haired dragon. I'm so glad that DA has been charged. We're finally starting to bring murderous cops to justice, but everyone else of the line have not been held responsible. That's right. It's time the racism and injustices of not just the cops, but also their captains, prosecutors, and judges are also held accountable. And you make a great point, because to have the DA tell a responding officer what he can or cannot do, that means she has the permission from the sergeant who's the supervisor and the police chief who's in charge to then transfer to another DA who literally is the only person who wrote a letter in defense of them. She controls them too. All of them are part of this corrupt act. All right, Kelly O'Hara, my poet, says my SAT scores won't win those awards, but I'll still drop these rhymes like they're Claymore swords. If you're bringing falsehoods and other deceits, my man Dr. Richie will bring the receipts. All you Karens and cops and overall bigots, he'll drown you in truth. Watch out for that spigot. I love it. Bars. Okay, YouTube super chat. I don't have time to read all of them. We're running behind schedule for the show. But I will read as many as I can. Leanne Purcell, thank you, Doc, for everything you do. Love your show, and thank you back. Love you too. Rosie, how the hell is he free? Well, we know. Stephen Miles Cook, if Doc is too hard for people, man, I don't know what to say. LOL. West African Dragon, Dr. Richie, you are a superhero. Really thank you, TYT Dragon Squad, and I thank you as well. Gary Sullivan, Dr. Richie is the man. I appreciate that love, brother. Thank you so much, Gary. Twitch, Rhino Lock. I'm tired of having a society that we need to watch these videos for black people to be believed. I know, right? Ladies and gentlemen, I wish a Karen would.
You want to call the police on them for having a barbecue on a Sunday?
I feel free. Back off. I'm going to tell them there's an African-American man threatening my life. I have no fear of you either.
You better have fear.
I have no fear at all. I have no fear at all. So what do you want me to fear? What do you want me to fear? You want me to fear something?
The police.
So, okay, call the police. We're not doing anything wrong. I have him standing in the middle of the road. All you have to do is beat the horn or lower the window and tell him to.
The police are coming.
I have no ganja here, so you can go ahead and do something. Go ahead. Call the police. I have no ganja here. Gee, are you gonna go on with your day, or are you gonna keep standing here?
I'm gonna go on my day as long as I know my children are here and I have a like you around.
We'll see about this.
Damn right.
I'm standing right here. I'm standing right here.
You know what I expect?
What do you expect?
I expect when there's trouble in the community that someone like my neighbor would come along and help me out.
Okay.
Not the yelling in the middle of the street about things that are inappropriate.
You just came up to.
You're not reading me.
Pa, so I'm here working on my garage and we're not doing anything wrong. And he's sitting right in front of me. He won't move. He comes and he drives up, and my friend is standing in the middle of the street, and then he moves out of his way and he comes up.
I'm not kidding
around.
Like,
oh, you're not. You're. What are you?
Because the smirk, Ethan, you'll never help somebody in need. You're a troublemaker.
He's just standing here screaming at it. No,
I can read people well. You're not a good human being.
Oh my God. Okay, I'm gonna call the cops. Yo, are you recording everything?
Yeah.
Smile and laugh, my friend. My life is 300 years of life.
He just right here in the truck.
My wisdom is out your nose.
I haven't done anything wrong.
Oh my God.
Should I call the police? But then I have to call my probation officer.
There you go, probation officer. What the heck is wrong with you, boy? Yeah. I'm not afraid of you. I work at the prisons for a living. You have no clue who I am. I'm not afraid of you. I'm the real thing. That's your fear.
You're wrong, sir. We do have a clue of who you are. You are, as you said, 300 years of light. Okay. This was just weird as hell. He said some quotes I had to Google because I said, listen, this must mean something. But it meant nothing at all. He was just talking. But I did find it interesting that he knew the terminology ganja. Okay. I did find that interesting. I don't know what to do with that. I just found it interesting. Jackson, another male Karen here, blocking someone, threatening to put somebody in jail, accusing people of doing things he has no evidence that they're doing, and saying that he's 300 years of light. I guess this is eternal life male Karen here.
Yeah, I mean, what this basically was a guy who just happened to stumble into a situation and didn't know how to leave it alone. Right. I mean, that's basically what it was. I mean, my life is 300 years of life and I got wisdom out your nose. Like, dude, shut up. Like, go away. And I was just talking about this a little bit earlier, but like, if he would have did that to a different group of people, he would have got beat up just because he wouldn't leave. You know what I'm saying? Like, bruh, leave. Yeah. You know, so if those weren't like little kids, if those were people who were a bit older or a bit bigger, he might have got hurt in that situation.
And so, listen, we highlight these stories because we want people to be safe. We want them to understand, listen, you can't just roll up to anybody. At some point, I mean, statistics will set in. You keep doing that to people, you're gonna catch hands. Somebody's gonna end up not being the right one to roll up on. So we don't want that to happen to anybody, all right? Just, be decent. Okay, people were not decent to you, brother. And I want you to give us some background as to what happened here. You were at a MAGA event, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, in Conroe, Texas.
Tell us about that.
Well, we went down there just to film and ask people there was a big conservative event in Conroe, Texas, just to get a little bit about how they were thinking about the coming elections, the Afghanistan situation. And I'm a pretty calm, laid back guy. I wasn't there to debate or really overly challenge people. I was just there to talk to people because we see things online often. But it was a good opportunity for me to actually go down there and speak to people. And I got all different types of vibes, all different types of people, and we had an interesting run-in.
We got some video.
Yeah.
All right, let's go to the video.
Do you think that Trump's gonna run again in 2024?
I hope he does, and if he doesn't, I definitely don't blame him just because of all the stuff he went through. I definitely still think he'll still fight for us, and if he became Speaker of the House, dang, that'd be even more awesome.
Is there anybody else that you have in mind that you think would be a good candidate to run in 2024?
Candace Owens, I would 100% vote for that beautiful woman. She is smart, intelligent, and she knows how to get stuff done.
Would you like to see Trump run again in 2024?
He'll be back before then.
How do you think that would happen?
I think the election fraud is going to blow wide open.
I think Trump needs to run again. I like the job he did. He said several times last night about you want the mean tweets, you want somebody that's a leader. And he was a leader. I wouldn't mind him tempering his tweets down a little bit, but I think the man did a good job. The economy was good. I thought he did about as good a job as you could do with COVID. There's a lot of people that disagree. Yeah, I'd like to see him run again, but I wouldn't object to somebody stronger running in. Governor DeSantis, I think, would be a good candidate.
Okay, damn. I mean, somebody actually said they want Candace Owens to run for president.
Several people said that.
Several people.
Several people.
All right, what happened? There was an encounter where things turned from Q&A to something else. What went down?
Well, basically, we got permanently banned from the Men's Baptist Church because apparently Jesus only saves sometimes in that location. so you know what I'm saying? We were just filming, and they kind of got wind of, I guess who we were. And the guy, one of the security guards, he came over and he told us to leave, and we ended up coming back just to get some clarity, and they sent the police on us, and so that could have went south pretty badly. Luckily, the police were decent. They had us sign some papers, but the security guard, he wanted them to arrest us, and he wanted them, us to be in trouble, but we were just up there, filming at a public event, so. ultimately they just, luckily again, they were cool enough to just let us go. So.
All right, we got some more video. Let's go to it.
Yeah. Hey guys, I hate to break in here. Y'all have permission to be here on the property?
We do not.
Okay, y'all need to go to the other by the road. You can't be anywhere on this property.
Y'all have a good one.
Y'all come back onto the property. Y'all will be arrested for criminal trespass.
All right.
Okay. Y'all haven't asked for permission or anything. Halfway of the ditch to the road, you're good. Anything halfway from the ditch this way is criminal trespass.
All right. Appreciate the information. Thank you.
Okay, so let me tell you why he's inaccurate. They literally use that property for a public event. You can transform your private property into a public use property to where the general trespass laws no longer apply. You don't get to say we're having a public event and then say, oh, but no, we're not, right? So they transformed it into a public event and then accused you all of criminal trespass, basically. But I do find it quite interesting. Were other people asking questions here?
Not from the time that we were there, because we weren't there for very long before that happened.
How long did it take?
About probably like 35, 40 minutes. That's only about how long it took. And as you saw in the video, he said we could go further back, and we came back to get a bit more clarity on it. And then they just like sicked the police on us. And he was really upset, like visually upset. About the whole thing. So again, at a church that's supposed to be about community and connectedness, he certainly did not have that spirit about him whatsoever.
Okay, I'm gonna go out on a limb here. If you walked inside of that church, I bet you would have seen a picture of white Jesus.
Oh, no doubt. Absolutely, without a doubt. Yeah, I mean,
brother, I'm glad you got what you did get on record, because top 3 in the running, Trump, Candace Owens, and Governor DeSantis.
Yes.
3 of the most horrible people I could think of to run even a warehouse, much less a country.
Yeah, but those are the candidates and those are the people. So we got to get active. We got to get in our communities, and we got to get people out here because they're voting. So we got to do it too,
Yeah.
So.
Well said, brother. How can people follow you? Check out your work.
You can download Politiscope on Apple and Android. Just type in Politiscope. Follow us on Twitter and Instagram at Politiscope app. We help you stay up to date with legislation in Congress, who's voting for it, who's voting against it, and our news feed is policy focused to just keep you up to date and connected with the most useful features that you can think. So just check us out.
My brother, always a pleasure having you on Indisputable, man. Thank you for being here with me.
Oh yeah, thanks for having me. Looking forward to more.
All right, we got more on the other side. It's Indisputable. Stick and stay.
I went to Kentucky Fried Chicken when I first got my license, like 17 years old or 17, 18, whatever it was. And I'm driving, I think, my dad's Oldsmobile. And I parked it in a place where there was 2 cars next to me, really tight spot, and a car behind me. I don't even know how I got in there because I'm a terrible driver. Back then I was an even worse driver. And on the roads I'm okay, but in parking spots I have terrible spatial reasoning and I'm a mess. And on my way out, I hit all 3 cars at once. I broke all records, okay? So I went, as I'm backing out, I went boom, oh and this side hit that car, this side hit this car, and the back hit the 3rd car, okay? And I got stuck. I didn't know how to get out. Like, I went, okay, for this, and then I'm like, no, and then, right? And then finally I had to stop, go inside the KFC and go, I'm sorry, I hit a bunch of your cars. They're like, what do you mean a bunch of your cars? I'm like, I don't know.
Wow, there's a B?
Yeah, I'm like this, I hit 3 cars, I don't know. So you guys gotta come help me, okay? Okay, so 1, my bad, really sorry about that. Okay, number 2, can someone take my car out? Because I don't wanna keep hitting your cars and I'm incapable of taking it out of this spot.
Now baby, move that fat, baby, move that fat. Out.
Hi, I'm Brett Erlich with Breaking News with Brett Erlich. This is Breaking News with Brett Erlich. Hi, Brett Erlich here. According to EPA head Scott Pruitt, climate change is not happening. He cited a meme on Facebook he saw. When pressed to back up this source, he said it must be accurate because the watermark said it was made by a scientist. So, your move, Truth.
Do all of you know the Young Turks?
An outlet like yourself that are willing to cover this story from the very beginning and that weren't afraid to say, hey, this is something that is legitimate.
And this is why what Cenk and the Young Turks are doing is so important.
Brent Welder is very progressive Democrat. He's a just Democrat, in fact, uncorrupted, not going to take big corporate PAC money. When did you start watching the show and when did you become a member?
So I've been watching for 10 years, an active viewer, but also more importantly, getting out there with causes like Wolf-PAC.
By the end of our campaign, we had organized about 22,000 individual contributions with an average about $27 a piece. And those initial people were a lot of TYT supporters as well.
In looking at the world in a very different way than corporate media does.
It takes those early people who believe that can really be the seeds of this movement, and that has been the Young Turks.
Thank you, Cenk Uygur of the Young Turks.
Thank you to TYT and all the progressives around the country that have our backs.
You know, the first and only interviews that we had tonight to be with the Young Turks as well, because you guys have been here from the very beginning, and that's what this night is all about.
And I thank Cenk very much for the very good work that he does.
Thank you so much for all in this together, and the people are so powerful, and we're gonna get it done.
Thank you for your constant support.
It's a pleasure to be with rebels. I like that.
For all of the help that you've given to the Just Democrats, to Wolf-PAC, to help fellow progressives, thank you guys, to all the Young Turks members that make it possible.
Hey, this is Edwin. Most of you might recognize me, well, not me, mostly my laugh from the main show.
I mean, it's gonna be hard to get the Uygur maneuver on him.
And today, my talent is Rubik's Cubes. You gotta forgive me, it's been at least 5 years since I've competed. So that's why I'm actually going pretty slow. Watch this.
right, you hear me now. Welcome back. Sorry about that. Okay, I'm going to read some of these housekeeping notes for everybody to pay attention to, okay? If you're watching Indisputable on the Damage Reports YouTube page, make sure that you subscribe to Indisputable TYT, because that is going to go away. Us being on TDR, the Damage Report, will be no more. All right, we thank everyone, the big homie John and everybody over there, for allowing us to enjoy this awesome lead in and help build the show. But I want to say thank you. And Monday, September 13th, our live stream will completely disappear from the Damage Report. So make sure you subscribe right now to Indisputable TYT. All right. Also, when you do that, you won't miss I Wish You Karen Wood, bullpen segment, none of that. It's gonna be amazing, all right? Also tonight, kick off the weekend with some friendly competition. The Game Busters on Twitch with Jordan Yule and Brett Erlich every Friday night, 8:30 p.m. Eastern time, 5:30 p.m. Pacific time. You, the audience, can be part of the show and sabotage their games. Join in on the fun on Twitch. I may get in on some of that action too, okay? All right, the conversation, don't forget, today live at 5:30 p.m. Eastern time, 2:30 p.m. Pacific time at tyt.com/live. That's before the Young Turks. Make sure you subscribe and watch all of these amazing interviews at youtube.com/TYT conversation. Don't forget the big homie, Galaxy Brain with Ben Carollo. That's right after Indisputable. Catch Galaxy Brain with Ben at 4 p.m. Eastern time, 1 p.m. Pacific time. Tune in on Twitch at twitch.tv/TYT. All right, all good, amazing programming. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the bullpen. In the bullpen today, very outspoken writer and comedian. We have Jason Lefkowitz on the show, and he has actually kind of gone viral for being extremely vocal about mask mandates, vaccine requirements, etc. All right. Jason, thank you for being on the show. How are you?
Oh, I'm wonderful. And I just want to say congratulations. I understand that you're working on your second doctorate. That takes a lot of time and effort on your part. So congratulations.
Brother, I appreciate you saying that. You are a little late. Maybe you saw an old bio. I finished my second doctorate 2 years ago, and I'm currently a second-year law student. But I thank you for even acknowledging some of that. And thank you for reading up on it, brother, a little bit. But I think you just read an old bio. But thanks for the sentiment.
Well, okay, well, I just wanted to say, I was a bio major at Rutgers University. I scored a 96. I scored a 96.4 on the DAT, which was organic chem, and bio. I've studied immunology, virology, microbiology, genetics, cancer. So I'm not just a comedian or a writer. I am a bio major. I've always had my eyes and ears and mouth in all things science. So
okay, and where did you graduate?
Happy to be here.
Where did you graduate?
2000, Rutgers College. I was actually class president as well.
Remarkable. So you know the science of things, right?
I know as much science as I possibly can, yes.
Okay, let's get into it, man. I don't want to presume what you know or believe about mask requirements or the vaccination, COVID-19, etc. So give us your sentiment, man. What are your thoughts about what's happening right now, especially around mask mandates at school boards and some of the potential vaccine requirements?
Well, first, let me just say that I am for medical freedom. I believe if somebody wants to take a vaccine, they should have every right to take that vaccine. I also believe that if somebody doesn't want to take the vaccine, they should not be coerced or forced into taking a vaccine. I feel the same way about masks. Masks are a medical instrument. I do not believe that children who should be forced into masks whatsoever. There is literally a 0% death rate for kids, and they've been known, even the CDC admits that transmission through children is highly negligible if recorded at all. So yeah, to put masks on kids, I believe is child abuse, and to put masks on our faces around children, if you're not sick, is also a form of child abuse. Children need to see faces, they need to see smiles, they need to see emotion. That's how we socially interact.
Okay, let me ask you this question. You believe vaccines or vaccine mandates are a violation of some sort of civil liberty? Is that the premise of the argument?
I believe that wholeheartedly, that forcing anybody into a medical experiment and into this medical gene therapy that's never been done before, and all the previous trials of mRNA vaccines ended in animal death. We are the animals in this live experiment. Nothing has been approved. Everything is still an emergency authorization. This sort of technology is. Well, the thing with Pfizer, they approved another name that's a different name of the vaccine.
But when you make proclamations like that, Jason, that nothing has been approved, everything is still under emergency use, you are aware that that statement is a lie, correct?
It's not a lie.
The FDA does, sir. The FDA has approved.
The FDA did not approve the biotech name of the vaccine that has been given out. They approved something else that has a different name, and that thing we do not even have vials to distribute yet. So sir, that's the truth.
You say no, sir, you are incorrect. I assume you subscribe to QAnon. Am I right? Am I right on that assumption?
Not at all. But
you're anti-QAnon, right?
I didn't say I'm anti. I didn't say I'm pro. I'm not on it. I don't know enough. All I know from Q is that they ask people to go do research about things. I'll tell you that I'm anti-sex trafficking. Are you?
Yeah, of course we are, brother.
Okay, well then that's all I know of it. I'm not a QAnon support. I'm not a QAnon person.
All right,
I'm
so
a
let's go
concerned
back to the
citizen
vaccine
that does a lot of research and read. Sure.
Guys, let's go back to the vaccine mandate. Are you also against the vaccinations that you were mandated to receive?
100%.
Okay, so why are you not talking about the vaccines that are already mandated in the United States of America? For example, all 50 states, they have a vaccine mandate of between 6 to 8 vaccinations, depending on the state. Georgia and Florida has a few less than California and New York. Every single public school system in the United States of America has a mandate of vaccinations, even though there is no federal mandate for them. Also, if you go to certain countries or come in from certain countries to America, there's a vaccination mandate that you must adhere to as well. And also private companies, naturally, they have the ability to enforce certain mandates for vaccinations, especially if you work with a particular population. This has been well known and established for decades in the healthcare arena. And if you serve in the US military, depending on your deployment, you can get 16 to up to over 20 vaccination requirements because of what you do for the United States military. My point to you is this.
Yeah, and they poison our soldiers.
Jason, I allowed you to finish, brother, in all due respect. My point to you is this. We have always had various vaccination mandates in the United States of America. So if you're arguing that this is a civil liberty issue rather than a COVID-19 vaccine issue, then you would intellectually have an issue, problem, and protest against the vaccination requirements that are currently established today, correct?
Correct, and I do talk about those. You'll see that in my speeches. Since 1990, with the new vaccine schedule, we have the sickest children in America. When I was a child, and probably when you were a child, you got maybe six vaccines total. Children nowadays, since 1990, take 69 vaccines. Autism rates are through the roof. That's how I talk about it. That's how I talk about all these things. We have the sickest children in the country, in the world.
I want to remind
everyone. Over 54% of our kids have learning disabilities. All of these things are caused by vaccines. It's all germ theory nonsense.
When you say the number 69, for the vast majority of states, the requirement is 7. Other states, the requirement is 6. When you say 69, those are voluntary. Those are people that say we want to get an additional vaccination, a flu shot, whatever it may be.
Yeah, no parents say that.
But you
no
are independent.
That. Doctors and nurses are coercing our parents, are coercing our children. The medical industry is a massive coercion. Western medicine is pharmaceutically driven. Doctors now are just drug dealers pushing drugs that they don't know anything about. There are zero classes about vaccinations in medical school. Zero classes about vaccinations in medical schools. So yes, sir.
All right, here's the thing, brother. See, if I was a guest in your house, I would respect the rules of your home because I'm a gentleman. I'm going to request that you be a gentleman in my home or I would kick you the hell out.
How am I not being a gentleman?
When you and I engage in discourse, when I put something out to you, you respond. I put something out, you respond. You put something out, I respond. Remember, as the host, I have to play part moderator and part debater with you on these topics. That's just the flow of the program, okay?
Yeah.
All right, I appreciate that. So let me go to mask. You have an issue with mask mandates. Do you have an issue with any other mandates for school children inside of K through 12 education?
Sure, but let's talk about, sorry. I do, but let's start with the mask. So your best mask that we know of is the N95, correct? Would you agree?
According to the CDC, yes.
Okay, so the smallest hole in an N95 mask is 0.3 microns, which is very small. The average size of a coronavirus is 0.125 microns, which is less than half the size of the hole. What the PCR test is testing for is 64 base pairs of a polypeptide chain, which is way smaller than even a coronavirus. A coronavirus has up to 10,000 plus base pairs. That would be like finding a fingernail on the ground and saying you discovered an entire new species of human being. So to think that a cloth mask or a bandana or any of these other masks supplying any sort of protection is absolutely asinine. Even Dr. Fauci said masks don't work. So I don't understand which science people are trying to believe.
Once again, untrue.
That's untrue. He
that's
said
untrue
it.
Again.
I've seen
so
the video.
Let's be very clear.
He
Jason,
said masks don't work.
I'm going to respond. I don't have unlimited time, brother. So Fauci and the CDC, as a matter of fact, where you get your science from, the same scientists that talk about the formation of this virus are the same scientists that also have proclaimed, based on actual studies, that if you wear the mask properly, it can decrease the spread of COVID-19 by up to 90%. Even if you wear, brother, you can go to the CDC to check out.
If you wear 3 masks,
sir,
if you wear 3 masks, they'll give you 90%.
You're still trying to be a comedian. Your career.
I'm not trying to be a comedian. Fauci said 1 mask is 1, 2 is 70%. Okay.
Jason,
Fauci said in the very beginning, masks don't work.
Jason,
he said
90% worn properly, it decreases the spread of COVID by 90%. That's according to the CDC. It also, if you wear, Jason, come on, man.
I'm listening.
You're adults, brother.
Yeah, I'm listening. I mean, you're just lying, but keep going.
No, that's not a lie. Come on, man. It's on the CDC website. I just cited my source to you.
Okay, cool. I'll cite my sources too. Dr. Rochelle Walensky said the PCR test
all right, I
can't
appreciate
distinguish
you citing
between
your source,
COVID
brother.
and the
Can
flu.
I finish the rebuttal or not?
Please, by all means.
You want to call me a liar for citing verified data on my show?
You called me a liar for citing verified data. So
say that again.
We're equally. You called me a liar for citing verified data. So,
sir, when you say
Dr.
Fauci says masks do not work, who has been one
right
of
in the beginning,
hardest supporters, the most extreme, I would say, in the media, supporter of wearing masks, that is simply taking things out of context. So let me go on to the next data set. Even if you wear the mask improperly, or if you wear a cloth mask, it decreases the spread of COVID by 40 to 60%. Now here's another data set. Individuals who have the COVID-19 vaccination, they have virtually a 100% chance of not dying from COVID.
That's hysterical. That's hysterical.
Go ahead, tell me why.
So you understand that the CDC declares anybody is unvaccinated until after 2 weeks after their second shot. So if you get the shot and you get sick and die from it, you're still considered unvaccinated. Imagine if you and I went out to go eat some seafood and you ate a thing of clams and I ate a thing of clams and we both got dysentery and got really sick from it. But because they didn't pass through our digestive system, we can't blame it on the clams. That's exactly what's going on here.
Let me get this right. I just want to ask this for clarity, and I'll let you finish your point. You're saying, because I understand the nuance, you are fully vaccinated if you take the 2-shot
after 2
regimen.
Weeks. After 2 weeks of the second shot.
You're saying that first shot contributes to death. Is that what you're saying?
I'm saying people have died after the first shot.
But I'm asking, are you saying that the shot itself kills people? Is that the insinuation you're making?
The shot itself has killed people, yes. 100%. You can go on the VAERS. You can go on VAERS right now, which I have behind me. We're almost at 14,000 deaths reported on VAERS as of yesterday, and that's noted to be 1 to 10%, and that's just in the United States of America.
I'm running out of time.
So let me ask you one question.
Brother, I want to get to the Civil War statement.
Sure.
you said that there will be civil war. I want you to provide context for the statement. I don't want to provide your context. What did you mean by that?
That's fair, and I do appreciate you saying that. What I meant by that was, if mandates start rolling out and people that are wary of the vaccine, that want to have their right to choose, that want to wait to see how these experiments play out and the data is taken, because the Pfizer doesn't end, I believe, till next year, and the Moderna the year after that, or vice versa. So when you're trying to tell people now that they're not gonna be able to have access to food, to jobs, right now, according to certain bills, they would still allow grocery stores and churches. But what's happening is, as the news and media declares that it's a pandemic of the unvaccinated, they're making it so that the churches and the grocery stores will be the only places where people could be spreading the virus. And then the circle just tightens and tightens and tightens. And we know this flu season, there's gonna be a lot more people getting sick. And if you looked at the PCR test, like the CDC stated, they cannot distinguish between the flu and COVID, which oddly, we had 39 million cases of COVID in America. We had 38 million cases of the flu last year and only 1,800 this year. So if you look into germ theory versus terrain theory, the only things that have been added to the terrain that have been making people sick are the spike protein and 5G.
Jason, so this is because of 5G technology.
It is definitely part of why people get sick. Anytime there's a rollout of new technology in the air, you can read the book, The Invisible Rainbow. Radar, radar, X-ray, 1G, 2G, 3G, people get sick. Look at your Wi-Fi. I'm sure you've seen the experiment where people put seeds near their Wi-Fi converter and they don't grow. Yeah, that's called radiation poisoning. Losing your senses of taste and smell are clear indications of radiation poisoning. Oxygen attenuates at 60 megahertz. The oxygen molecule attenuates at 60 megahertz, which gives you shortness of breath. I just proved it to you. I just proved it to you that 5G can make you sick.
You went on record and said that there would be civil war. The explanation you just gave is that these folks are being mandated to do things, basically. But mandates are everywhere. You're mandated by law to wear a seatbelt. You're mandated by law to have certain prerequisites before you can have particular jobs. You're mandated by law already to have certain vaccinations if you work in a particular field or industry. All of these
approved
are already here, okay?
They're approved vaccinations. This is a modified gene therapy that they changed the definition of a vaccination so they would have zero liability.
What's going to happen in this civil war?
People are losing their jobs. People are losing their jobs, and when men can't provide food for their families, you're pushing them into a box that I don't want to see.
But Jason, the civil war aspect of it, you think literally Americans, and this is something that you stand for, or at least you are an observer of, that Americans are willing to kill other Americans because of a mask mandate in particular areas in the United States of America. That is your proclamation today.
Americans are already trying to kill other Americans by injecting them with a poison that's known to kill people. It's on the VAERS site. Over 13,000 deaths already. So you're putting other Americans at risk, saying, here, take a risk on this experimental vaccine in live time where you can be a lab rat and potentially die. So you're already killing us.
Jason, I'm out of time, brother. I just want to remind people that you are actually a comedian.
But I can, yeah.
All right, thank you, man. Appreciate you being on Indisputable.
Thank you for your time, that's very kind of you.
Absolutely. All right, sorry about that, people. Ladies and gentlemen, remember, take care of yourself, take care of each other, and take care of the planet. Remember, the truth is always indisputable. All right, welcome back. Ladies and gentlemen, there was a very disturbing situation that took place, and a young African-American female was assaulted by a police officer. But she ends up getting arrested later after the cop assaulted her. Here's the video.
Mason for no reason. Mason us for no reason. Cause we're recording. Look, don't rub it. Don't rub it. Don't rub it. Don't rub it. You good, friend?
This cop literally went up to her, physically assaulted her with his bicycle, and then decided to mace her in the face. Now, there's a why connected to this. It's because she was recording. And these cops have been given free rein based on a new law to actually do this to civilians who record them. They have been utilizing the privilege in an egregious way. So let me give you some background to this and highlight this particular cop. Miami Beach prosecutors have dropped charges against a music festival tourist. So remember, they ended up arresting her. Now, they did not arrest her immediately. She walked down the street. They're trying to put water in her eyes to get the mace out. And then she gets arrested by another officer, okay? So they've dropped the charges. The arrest was made under some ridiculous new city law that establishes a protection for police for unruly crowds. Now, they were at a concert, okay? But really, they have used this law in order to assault people who are caught recording them. That's how they've used the law. The young black woman in the red hair, her name is Mariah Maple, 27 years of age. Let's put up a picture of Miss Maple. She was a victim here out of New York. The ordinance case was with Sergeant Vincent Stella. That's the person who pepper sprayed this young sister, okay, who was doing nothing criminal. Let's put up a picture of this sergeant. That's the sergeant receiving a promotion. That's according to the Miami Herald. Once again, insane, right? But here's what happens. Literally the same people who are supposed to respect the law, who are supposed to be enforcers of the law, and to protect you when there is an unlawful element around you, these are the individuals who are becoming the biggest law violators out there. This young lady was at a concert. She was at a concert. Yes, she was recording, but that is still constitutional. That is still statutorily legal. And because of this ridiculous added protection, they have utilized that added protection to create a prerequisite in order to engage in assault, in order to engage in this egregious activity against citizens. Now, according to some reports, over 90% of the people that have been engaged by this ridiculous law, guess what? Black folk, okay? And they are utilizing it based on the majority of reports. They're utilizing it to stop people from recording them, all right? Ladies and gentlemen, shifting gears. What if a cop was stalking you for 3 years? What if that happened, okay? That would be scary, right? This person out of Arkansas, this young lady was a victim of a state trooper stalking her. Former state trooper will now spend 10 years in prison for stalking a Locust Grove woman for more than 3 years. Let's put up a picture of this guy. There he is. His name is Mark Holland. Mark Holland was paid to protect and serve people, okay? In 2016, I'm giving you background now. In 2016, Skylar Galloway was working at a family-owned gas station in Independence County. The owner's brother was former trooper Mark Holland. He would come in and do coffee and stuff, and he was an officer, and he'd be getting ready for his shift. So that's how I knew him, the victim said. I was really close with his family. Galloway eventually moved and switched jobs a month later. Anonymous emails came pouring in asking for nude photos. The victim, she didn't know exactly where this was coming from because this trooper did not identify himself, okay? According to an affidavit, they would say things like, if I have to come over there, I'll take my own pics. I'm going to get what I want. You are going to scream and moan, but you probably won't really like it. Let me show you a picture of his victim, his stalking victim. Her name is Skylar Galloway. Put up her picture. There she is. Now remember, this took place for over 3 years. And she went to the authorities initially, but they said not enough evidence was here to figure out who it was. She started filing police reports with the Independence County Sheriff's Office, but was turned away. Galloway said nothing could be done basically because they did not have a name. So she decided to take matters into her own hands. Why? Because they didn't. She took matters into her own hands and started investigating. Why? Because they would not. I had to get out of it. It was either life or death for me. I had to do something about it or I was going to die. That's how extreme these emails were. She believed she was going to die, okay? After 3 years of digging, she realized it was Holland. Let's put his picture up again. She realized it was him doing this to her. Within 5 days, he was arrested by his own department and charged with 20 felonies. According to court records, Holland acquired charges of terroristic threatening, misuse of the Arkansas Crime Information Center, and 18 separate counts of stalking. Now, what made him believe he could do this to a civilian, to another person, to a human being, to a woman, and get away with it? And he did it for years. He's a criminal every day. This criminal did not simply engage in criminality against her. How do you think he treated people he encountered while being a trooper? Do you think this is a silo? Do you think this guy is a one-off? Or maybe he runs with a crew of criminals, right? I'm thankful that this young lady finally received justice. These emails obviously have stopped because they found the perpetrator. But once again, if it had not been for her investigation, if it had not been for her continuing to get to the bottom of what was happening to her, these cops would not have done a damn thing, all right? Okay, we got more.